Chapter 777. This masked man was the head of the Azure Dragon Hall, the Lord. The bureau chief was not surprised by the masked man standing in the room. He nodded slightly at him and walked to the window, standing side by side with the Lord. "How did the meeting go?" the Lord asked calmly. After the bureau chief gave a brief introduction, he added, "Tang Jing suggested for the Azure Dragon Hall to fight against the demons, but I rejected it in the end." The eyes behind the mask shone brightly and he smiled strangely. Tang Jing is really indulging in fantasy. Actually, I think what Tang Jing said is not unreasonable. At this moment, the survival of the country is at stake. If the Azure Dragon Hall has a way, why not give it a try? You don't want to see this world really being occupied by the cultivators, right? The Lord frowned and asked suspiciously. "You're all worrying for nothing. The demons have returned, but not all of them have. Island Nation is not rich in spiritual energy. Although the 100 Change Star Lord killed more people to make up for this lack, it didn't have much effect. Therefore, there are only about 100 demons that return this time, and they don't have the ability to overturn this world." The Lord said as if victory was in his hands. "Only 100? The bureau chief widened his eyes in surprise, and all the cells in his body seemed to be filled with joy. "Really? Of course, when have I been wrong?" The Lord was full of confidence. The bureau chief heaved a sigh of relief and said with lingering fear, "It's really full of twists and turns. It's like riding a roller coaster. You don't know how much pressure I've been under." With pressure comes motivation. Although there aren't many demons that returned, they still have power that cannot be underestimated. They will definitely spare no effort to find a way to let the other demons return. This is what we really need to be wary of. The bureau chief understood and said, "Prevent all the demons from returning." The High Lord nodded his head. "That's right, so your military is barely qualified for the current mission. Moreover, with Tang Jing's help, you guys are like a tiger that has grown wings. You should be able to snipe these demons." The Azure Dragon Hall has always been at odds with the cultivators. As the descendants of New Era, are you going to sit by and do nothing? The bureau chief was slightly dissatisfied. The Lord shook his head and smiled. "Of course not. The Azure Dragon Hall has more important things to do." "What is it?" "You don't need to know that." The High Lord didn't give him any face and directly said, "Although the military can deal with the rest of the demons, the ever-changing Star Sovereign is not an ordinary person. Is the Azure Dragon Palace going to sit by and do nothing?" This time, the Mountain River blood sacrifice array did not really succeed. Then, next time, when the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was more prepared, wouldn't that mean that the demon army would be able to return smoothly? What should we do then? The bureau chief did not give up and continued to ask aggressively. "Last time, you said that you had a way to deal with the 100 Change Star Sovereign. However, until now you have not done anything. What exactly is your Azure Dragon Hall planning to do?" The Great Lord looked at the bureau chief with a burning gaze. The bureau chief was not afraid at all. He raised his head and looked into the Great Lord's eyes. "If you have something to say, just say it. You can't just scare me with your eyes." The Great Lord smiled faintly. "I'm not trying to scare you. It's just that the Azure Dragon Hall has its own rules. It's not up to others to tell us what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do, but what's the purpose of keeping the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign?" The bureau chief continued to ask. The Great Lord turned his head slightly, and a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He thought to himself, "My 100-year plan is not something that you can guess. There's nothing else for me to do here. Goodbye." The Great Lord disappeared. As soon as he finished speaking, before the bureau chief could say anything to stop him, the Great Lord had already disappeared from his sight. The bureau chief's eyes kept changing. He punched the wall and said, deliberately mystifying and half-hearted, "The people of the Azure Dragon Hall are getting more and more unreasonable." Tang Jing walked alone on the street, recalling what he had seen and heard during the meeting. Now he could only wait for the official news. Once they found traces of the demons, they would definitely inform him. Tianquanzi, where did you run off to? You're so mysterious." He sighed deeply and suddenly raised his head. Why does this place feel so familiar?" Only then did he realize that he had unknowingly come to a place not far from the Ye family. The Ye family's courtyard gate was already in sight. "Although Ding Dang and I have broken up, the return of the demons is a matter of great importance. I should inform them in case something unexpected happens." Tang Jing walked to the Ye family gate. When the guard saw him, he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Last time, when he made a scene at the Ye family, many people suffered at his hands. "Please inform Yi Tianlei or Feng Xinyang that I have something to discuss with them." Tang Jing didn't force his way in and said politely. When the guard saw that he did not intend to barge in recklessly, he heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly turned around to report. A moment later Yi Tianlei walked out with large strides. Tang Jing, why are you here? Yi Tianlei's attitude was much better than last time. During this time, his dissatisfaction with Tang Jing had gradually dissipated. Tang Jing, you and Ding Dang have already broken up. There's no need to continue entangling with each other. Tang Jing's lips curled into a bitter smile. He shook his head and said, I didn't come for that. I came to tell you something. I'll leave once I'm done. Hearing this, Yi Tianlei felt very regretful. In fact, he was very satisfied with Tang Jing in all aspects. But the heavens made fools of people. In the end, the two young people didn't walk together. Say it. If there's anything you want to tell Ding Dang, I can also pass it on for you. There's no need. Tang Jing shook his head. Since Yi Ding Dang didn't want to be together, then he had nothing to say. Oh, I was wondering who came. With such great face, you actually made Uncle Yi personally come to receive you. So it's you. An ear-piercing voice came from the gatehouse. A few people walked out confidently. Enemies on a narrow road. The person who came was actually Song Yu. Tang Jing's eyelids twitched. Why was Song Yu at the Ye family? Tang Jing, it's important for people to know their own limits. If you blindly pester endlessly and overestimate yourself, you'll be the one losing face in the end. Song Yu said sarcastically. Tang Jing stared at Song Yu. He never realized that Song Yu's face was so annoying. When he first met Song Yu at Ordinary Balance's courtyard, he was a refined and courteous young master who gave people a good impression. Later on, that impression slowly slipped. Now, when Tang Jing saw this face, he had the urge to beat someone up. In fact, Song Yu looked like a modest gentleman, but he had two faces. Back then he appreciated Tang Jing, so he was naturally refined and courteous. Now that Tang Jing had far surpassed him, his modest and gentlemanly demeanor was naturally thrown out of the window. It seemed that only by using words to provoke Tang Jing would he be able to balance out a lot. Was it shallow? Indeed shallow. Who said that the children of large families weren't shallow? They would definitely be gentle, refined, generous, and selfless. It was just that the people of large families were better at hiding and doing superficial work. But in front of Tang Jing, Song Yu really couldn't pretend. Seeing Song Yu's unbridled sarcasm, Tang Jing said coldly, Song Yu, what are you doing here at the Ye family? Ah, who are you? What qualifications do you have to ask about my business? Song Yu said disdainfully, lightly raising his eyebrows, but seeing that you asked so sincerely, I'll tell you. I'm here to propose to Ding Dang. Propose? Tang Jing was so angry that his temples were throbbing. He looked at Yi Tianlei. Uncle Yi, is this true? It's a long story. Tang Jing, don't be so agitated. Yi Tianlei advised. Song Yu seemed to want to make Tang Jing agitated and continued to provoke. Tang Jing, you're so agitated. Are you very happy? I appreciate your kind intentions. Don't worry, when Ding Dang and I get married, I'll send you an invitation. Tang Jing snorted and said directly to Yi Tianlei, Uncle Yi, you can clearly see what kind of person Song Yu is. You absolutely can't push Ding Dang into the fire pit. Tang Jing, how can you say that? Who's the fire pit? You're pestering endlessly. Be careful that I don't hold back. Song Yu's expression turned cold as she berated. Tang Jing's gaze turned cold as he said, I'm the one who's going to be impolite to you. I told you to stay away from Ding Dang. If you don't listen, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Tang Jing still had Yi Ding Dang in his heart. Although he respected Yi Ding Dang's choice, when he heard the explosive news of the marriage proposal, his anger couldn't help but soar. Song Yu knew very well that she wasn't Tang Jing's opponent. She moved slightly and hid behind Yi Tianlei, shouting, You only know how to use your hands. Such a violent person is a disgrace to culture. Ding Dang knowing you is the biggest mistake in his life. Uncle Yi, get out of the way. I want to teach this brat a lesson. Tang Jing rubbed his fists and said angrily. This was the Ye family's gate. Yi Tianlei naturally couldn't turn a blind eye. He watched Tang Jing attack Song Yu and hurriedly advised, Tang Jing, calm down. Uncle Yi, how do you want me to calm down? Song Yu actually shamelessly came to propose to Ding Dang. If I don't beat him until half his body is paralyzed, then I swear I will not rest. Tang Jing said aggressively. Song Yu wasn't afraid at all and provoked, What you say sounds better than singing. This is the Ye family. How can you do whatever you want? Where will the Ye family put their face? Song Yu wasn't afraid and was trying to sow discord. He knew that Yi Tianlei wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. Perhaps he wanted to provoke Tang Jing's anger and make the situation go out of control. Although Tang Jing guessed some of the other party's thoughts, he had to get involved in today's matter. Even if it was the other party's trick, he had to step in and ruin the so-called marriage proposal. Seeing Tang Jing's anger, Yi Tianlei continued to persuade, Tang Jing, listen to me. It's useless for you to stir up this matter. Is it? Then who is in charge of this matter? Uncle Yi, you are Ding Dong's father. Could it be that you will just watch as your daughter marries him? Tang Jing questioned. Yi Tianlei glanced back from the corner of his eyes and didn't answer. Of course, he didn't want to marry his daughter to Song Yu. Chapter 778. Tang Jing directly walked towards the door. Song Yu immediately shouted in a sarcastic tone, Yo Tang Jing, what do you think the Ye family is? You just barged in like that. If this were to spread, where would the Ye family's reputation be? It was obvious that Song Yu was trying to drive a wedge between them again. Although Yi Tianlei knew this, he had no choice but to comply with Song Yu's wishes. He stopped Tang Jing, don't be impatient. If you barge in like this, the old man will definitely go crazy. Things will become even more difficult to handle. Tang Jing sneered, are you saying that I should wait for the dust to settle? Then the daylily will be too late. Uncle Yi, move aside. I'm going to see Yi Xuanji, not do anything else. Tang Jing, don't make it difficult for me. Yi Tianlei said awkwardly. Tang Jing looked at him deeply and nodded, okay, I won't make it difficult for you. That's right, let's talk things out. Yi Tianlei let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. Tang Jing actually passed by him and rushed into the door. Yi Tianlei was shocked. Tang Jing's speed was too fast, causing him to be unable to guard against it. Tang Jing, don't go in, stop. Seeing Tang Jing rush in like lightning, Yi Tianlei hurriedly shouted to stop him. However, Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to him. Song Yu's eyes could not hide the shock and horror in them, especially when Tang Jing passed by Yi Tianlei. He was as fast as lightning and he did not see it clearly. There was not even a trace of an afterimage. How did Tang Jing's cultivation improve so much? Song Yu's expression couldn't help but become a little ugly. Seeing Yi Tianlei chase after him, he also quickly followed. Tang Jing was familiar with the place and arrived at the reception hall in the blink of an eye. Some people were talking loudly and enthusiastically. When Tang Jing suddenly appeared at the entrance, he immediately received everyone's gazes. Many gazes swept over and many people couldn't help but frown. Yi Xuanji's eyelids twitched as he stared at Tang Jing with a complicated expression. He unhappily said, Tang Jing, why did you barge in? Tang Jing turned a deaf ear to her. His eyes were firmly fixed on Yi Dingdang as he strode over and asked, Song Yu came to propose? Yi Dingdang looked at him expressionlessly and said, what does this have to do with you? This has nothing to do with me, but I won't just watch you fall into a pit of fire. Tang Jing said unyieldingly. Yi Dingdang's heart thumped as if it was fiercely poked. She was a little touched but also a little heartbroken. In fact, this period of time was also very torturous for her. She liked Tang Jing, there was no doubt about it. Breaking up with Tang Jing would mean completely severing ties with him. Cutting him out of her life seemed easy, but when she really did it, she realized how painful her heart was. But there was no turning back. With her unyielding personality, of course she couldn't redeem herself, although she would occasionally have such thoughts. At this moment, seeing Tang Jing's arrival, although she looked calm on the surface, her heart was already in turmoil. When Feng Xinyang saw Tang Jing, her eyes were filled with passion. Just as she was about to greet him, she heard Yi Xuanji loudly say, Tang Jing, this is the Ye family, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Being ignored by Tang Jing in front of everyone, Yi Xuanji's anger had already risen. Tang Jing suddenly turned around and stared at Yi Xuanji from a distance. He found that there was also an extraordinary old man sitting next to him. This person was definitely not an ordinary person. He was very powerful, probably also a master. Tang Jing immediately guessed the other party's identity. The head of the Song family, Song Jianan. It seemed that Song Yu's proposal this time was very grand. She even invited Song Jianan to be a witness. Song Yu had put a lot of thought into it. But in Tang Jing's eyes, the head of the family was bullshit. Even if it was the emperor, he would still ruin this marriage just like he did before. A person who doesn't even care about his own granddaughter's happiness has no right to lecture me, Tang Jing said sarcastically. Yi Xuanji's old face was as red as a monkey's butt. He said angrily, Tang Jing, I've always tolerated you because you're a junior, so I didn't argue with you. But there's a limit to everything. If you continue to be stubborn and pester endlessly, I'll let you know how powerful the Ye family is. Tang Jing sneered, The Ye family is very powerful. I've finally seen it for myself. They can even sacrifice their own family's happiness for the rest of their lives. That's really powerful. Nonsense. Yi Xuanji's thoughts were seen through, and he became even more angry. This time, Song Yu invited Song Jianan to propose marriage. If it were before, Yi Xian would have had the chance to refuse. But now the situation was pressing. The rise of the Song family made him feel a lot of pressure. But the Ye family was isolated and helpless. They were all alone. If Yi Xuanji refused again this time, and the first engagement was ruined, the Ye family would become a thorn in the side of the Song family. The Song family's first target would not be the Yin family but the Ye family. To deal with the Ye family now, the Song family's strength was enough. By then, the Ye family would be in danger. Yi Xuanji was old and shrewd, and he easily saw through this. So this time, even though he knew that the Song family came to propose marriage, he did not reject them immediately. If Tang Jing did not come to mess things up, perhaps Yi Xuanji would have agreed in the end. After all, this way the Ye family could avoid a crisis. Although he sacrificed Yi Dingdong's happiness, the children of big families were mostly married to each other. How could there be so much freedom in love? On the contrary, it was more common for ordinary people to have freedom in love. This was the duty that should be fulfilled while enjoying all kinds of wealth and treatment. Yi Xuanji thought that this was a matter of course. As for Yi Dingdong's own thoughts, Yi Xuanji chose to ignore them. Song Jianan had been silently observing Tang Zheng. He was also very interested in this rising star, and thought that it was really a miracle. But miracles often did not last long, especially such a young and energetic person. There would be a day when he would fall. Moreover, Tang Zheng caused trouble everywhere. Not only was he like fire and water with the dragon group, he even recently heard that he had a conflict with the Rockefeller family. This made Song Jianan even more disregard for him. In fact, Song Jianan still felt a little regretful. Because he originally wanted to build a connection with the Rockefeller family, so he sent Song Yu to contact the young Lord Louis, and even provided a lot of convenience for the other party. Louis was able to gather tens of thousands of people in a short period of time, naturally without Song Yu's cooperation. However, Song Yu did not know about the Mountain River blood sacrifice array at all. He thought that it was just to catch some unimportant people not worth mentioning and even forgot about it. The matter of Sky Mountain was kept secret very well. Even Song Yu did not know that Louis had already died in the hands of Tang Zheng. Otherwise he would not have acted so recklessly. Song Jianan was like an old fox, smiling at Tang Zheng and said, "Xuanji, this young man is really hot-tempered. He doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all, and he doesn't put the Ye family in his eyes at all." Tang Zheng raised his thick eyebrows. This old thing and Song Yu were indeed family. Their ability to sow discord was the same. Hearing this, Yi Xuanji slammed the chair and was about to stand up. Just at this time, Yi Tianlei rushed in and hurriedly pulled Tang Zheng, saying, "Tang Zheng, let's go out first. If there's anything we can talk about it in private." Yi Tianlei was afraid that the old man would attack in anger, and if that happened, Tang Zheng would be at a disadvantage. In his impression, although Tang Zheng's strength was getting stronger and stronger, but after all, the older the ginger, the spicier the ginger, so he subconsciously thought that Tang Zheng was not the old man's opponent. Tang Zheng skillfully broke free from Yi Tianlei and said sincerely, "Uncle Yi, some things can be compromised but some things must be insisted on. You don't want Ding Dang to live in pain and regret for the rest of her life, right?" Yi Tianlei's face was conflicted. As a father, he naturally wanted his daughter to be happy. "Uncle Yi, it's hard for you to do this, so let me do it. Ding Dang, don't worry, I will definitely not let their scheme succeed." Tang Jing solemnly promised Yi Ding Dang. Yi Ding Dong's heart was moved. She did not have a good impression of Song Yu. Last time at school, in order to anger Tang Jing, she sat in Song Yu's car and got off as soon as they left the school gate. She did not want to have too much contact with Song Yu. But Song Yu was determined. This time she even brought up Song Jianan to propose marriage. Although it was not finalized, Yi Ding Dang could already see that Yi Xuanji was moved. Yi Ding Dang was very disappointed. The so-called family was not worth mentioning in the face of benefits. Just now she was even thinking about how Tang Zheng would react when he found out about this. She did not think that Tang Zheng would magically appear from the sky as if he had heard her thoughts. Yi Ding Dang naturally did not want to marry Song Yu. Even if Yi Xuanji agreed, she would not take it seriously. So when everyone was talking about it, she did not say a word. Because she had already made up her mind to not agree. Whether others agreed or not, it was not worth mentioning to her. As for whether it would harm the Ye family's interests, Yi Ding Dang did not have much feelings for the Ye family. Naturally she would not care. She was like an indifferent spectator watching this group of people play out this funny scene. Others did not know what Yi Dingdang was thinking. They only saw Tang Zheng's firm attitude. Yi Xuanji finally stood up from the chair. He glared at Tang Zheng and walked step by step towards him. The earth-shattering aura made the living room seem as if it had turned into a vast ocean, with stormy waves crashing towards Tang Zheng. "Father, there's no need to do this," Yi Tianlei advised. "Go away." Yi Xuanji waved his hand. Yi Tianlei staggered and retreated, leaving only Tang Zheng to face Yi Xuanji alone. Song Yu also chased after them and coincidentally saw this scene. Her eyebrows were raised in joy as this was a perfect situation. Tang Zheng did not know the difference between life and death and provoked Yi Xuanji. Even if he did not die this time, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Of course, it would be best if Tang Zheng died in the Ye family's hands. This way the Song family would be able to distance themselves from him. Even if someone wanted to take revenge, they would look for the Ye family. This way the Ye family would be more firmly attached to the Song family. His chances would be greater. "Tang Zheng, you asked for it. This time you asked for it, but in the end you helped me." Ah. Song Yu was secretly happy. "Tang Zheng, I'll say it again. Get out of the Ye family immediately. Otherwise I won't be polite." Yi Xuanji gave his last ultimatum. Tang Zheng did not move at all. He looked at Yi Xuanji indifferently. He did not take him seriously at all. Chapter 779. Yi Xuanji was angered to the point of blowing on his beard and glaring at Tang Zheng. His eyes flashed with an ominous glint as his 5 fingers formed into claws. With a roar, he clawed at Tang Zheng's shoulder. He was ready to teach Tang Zheng a lesson. After all, he didn't have a good relationship with Tang Zheng. However, he didn't want to kill Tang Zheng. After all, Tang Zheng had the mysterious Tian Chanzi behind him. If he offended Tian Chanzi, he would lose more than he could gain. Tang Zheng moved his feet slightly and moved his body slightly. Yi Xuanji's 5 fingers actually brushed past Tang Zheng's clothes and didn't hurt him at all. Yi Xuanji's heart skipped a beat. Tang Zheng's movement was too casual and smooth. He instantly disintegrated his attack. However, Yi Xuanji was a veteran after all. His other hand was like a long whip, grabbing at Tang Zheng's shoulder. Tang Zheng didn't dodge this time. Instead, he moved like lightning and grabbed Yi Xuanji's wrist. Up. Tang Zheng let out a low roar, and Yi Xuanji discovered that his feet had left the ground. "Shit!" Yi Xuanji cried out. He tried to land on the ground, but he found that an irresistible force lifted him up and sent him flying. Bang! Yi Xian and Yi Xuanji landed far away. They staggered back 3 steps before stabilizing their bodies. The ground under their feet was already in a mess. Yi Xuanji was still in shock. He looked at his hands and then at Tang Zheng. He couldn't understand how he lost his hands so carelessly. Everyone's expression changed. None of them were mediocre. They immediately judged that Tang Zheng's failure wasn't a coincidence. It was his true strength. In fact, they only needed to think a little to understand that in front of a master like Yi Xuanji, it was impossible for a coincidence to happen. With his strength and vision, he could kill any coincidence in the cradle. Song Jianan looked at Tang Zheng with a serious expression. He recalled the scene just now and couldn't help but secretly praise him. Whether it was the strength or the timing, they were all perfect. Not only did this require one's own strength as a foundation, but it also required the support of one's battle experience. It was rare to see someone at such a young age reach such a realm. No wonder you suffered so much at the hands of the other party. Indeed, it's not unjust. However, for the sake of the great cause of the Song family in the future, we should get rid of this nail. The killing intent in Song Jianan's heart gradually accumulated. Tang Zheng looked at Yi Xuanji indifferently and said, "Show me what you've got. Since you can't beat me, then I'll take care of this matter." Yi Xuanji was only at the 1st level of the Supreme Power Realm and had barely touched the threshold of the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. Compared to Tang Zheng, who had a 2nd level of the Golden Core Realm, it seemed that there was only 1 level difference, but in fact there was a huge gap between them. Tang Zheng was confident that no matter what, Yi Xuanji was no match for him. Yi Xuanji's expression kept changing. With so many people watching, if he lost again it would really be a disgrace. He took a deep breath and said, "Tang Zheng, don't be arrogant." After that, his hands turned into claws, one in front and one behind. The air seemed to be torn apart, leaving behind afterimages of claw marks. In the blink of an eye he was in front of Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng stood still. When the other party was in front of him, he threw out both fists and moved forward together, like 2 angry dragons coming out of the sea. Bang! Bang! The fists hit the claws. The claws tried to catch the fists, but they found that the huge force directly shook them away. Tang Jing moved his legs. With a small step he was already in front of Yi Xuanji. The attack of his fists was not reduced, and they were aimed at Yi Xuanji's chest. Yi Xuanji retreated in a hurry and put his hands forward, trying to block the two huge fists. However, he heard a crisp sound and a sharp pain came from his wrist. Tang Jing's fist directly broke his wrist. The fist slipped out of his arm and hit his chest. Bang! With a thunder-like explosion, Yi Xuanji was sent flying to the door. The door creaked as if it was going to fall down. Tang Jing's series of attacks did not have any tricks. It was all strength. It was dazzling and as fast as lightning. It was a real test of one's skills. Many people were already dumbfounded. If they were shocked at the beginning, then now they were frightened. Each and every one of them looked at Tang Jing with eyes full of disbelief and astonishment. Father. Yi Tianlei hurriedly helped Yi Xuanji up, patted the dust on his body and asked with concern, "Father, how are you?" Yi Xuanji's face was ashen. It was not that he was heavily injured. Only the fracture of his wrist was a little uncomfortable, but this pain was nothing to him. He was more shocked. Tang Jing was stronger than him and not just a little bit stronger. He had a feeling that if Tang Jing had not shown mercy, the fist that hit his chest would have directly shattered his ribs and even his heart. It was precisely because he knew all of this that all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart, and he was practically unable to accept such a cruel reality. He had been practicing for a lifetime and finally broke through to the first level of the supreme power realm. In the eyes of others, it was already rare and commendable. However, Tang Jing surpassed him in just over a year. What did this mean? It was like Yi Xuanji's lifetime of hard work was a joke compared to Tang Jing, a big joke. Yi Xuanji's face was red for a while, then pale for a while, and then gloomy for a while. In short, his heart was broken. Tang Jing no longer paid attention to Yi Xuanji. Instead, he walked to Yi Dingdang and said straightforwardly, "Your happiness is up to you. No one can tell you what to do. This is the only thing I can do for you." These words were clean and neat, but also revealed endless helplessness and pain. Because he could not save this relationship. Yi Dingdang's eyes rippled, and a trace of dense qi rose from the depths of her eyes. She bit her lips and could not say a word. Her mood was fluctuating too violently. It was not because of Tang Jing's amazing cultivation, but because of these words, because of Tang Jing's heart. There was no doubt that Tang Jing still liked her. She clearly felt this and she also liked him. However, the hurdle in her heart was like the world's first mountain, which she could not cross at all. Feng Xinyang looked at Tang Jing with shining eyes. The more she looked at him, the more she liked him. He was so handsome. She sighed endlessly. Why couldn't such a handsome man be her son-in-law? That would be a huge loss. However, her daughter's happiness was up to her. Feng Xinyang did not intend to interfere. Tang Jing looked deeply at Yi Dingdang. He did not expect her to respond. Just looking at her like this, he felt that what he did was enough. Suddenly, Yi Dingdang's pupils shrank as if she had seen something. She shouted, "Careful." Tang Jing's heart trembled. He hurriedly turned around and threw a punch. Bang! Tang Jing flew out and crashed into the wall, creating a large hole. Immediately, his eyes lit up. He stared at the enemy who was charging at him like lightning, Song Jianan. He actually launched a sneak attack. Song Jianan was completely helpless. He originally thought that Yi Xuanji could deal with Tang Jing or even kill him. Later he realized how ruthless and cruel reality was. It did not go according to his expectations at all. Tang Jing's strength had exceeded everyone's expectations. Yi Xuanji's defeat was without suspense, and it was a clean defeat. Even though Yi Xuanji still had the strength to fight, it was clear that his momentum had been completely destroyed by the two consecutive attacks. If Song Jianan still did not make a move, then the marriage proposal would really be ruined. Killing Tang Jing would be even more difficult. Thus he chose the safer method of a sneak attack. He even concealed his aura and launched his attack at lightning speed. Who would have thought that at the crucial moment, Yi Dingdang's warning would cause him to fall short of success? Song Jianan had the intention of killing Tang Jing in one strike, but in the end he only sent Tang Jing flying. He did not give up, and like a dragon he followed Tang Jing like a shadow, arriving in front of Tang Jing. Tang Jing angrily roared, his voice shaking the teacups in the hall to the point that they all shattered. Then he pushed his hands forward, and the War Soul sword appeared in his hands out of thin air, fiercely chopping down. Song Jianan saw the battle soul that appeared out of nowhere. His face showed a trace of strangeness. He already knew a lot about the divine abilities of cultivators. Seeing it with his own eyes was still amazing. However, he did not retreat. He extended his palm forward and patted the sword. Then, like a water snake, that pair of large hands actually wrapped around Tang Zheng's arm. Shake! Song Jianan roared. His arm exerted strength. It was as if steel needles were piercing into Tang Zheng's arm. The heart-wrenching pain caused Tang Zheng's arm to go numb. Battle Soul actually fell from his hand to the ground. Tang Zheng was extremely shocked, as no one had ever shaken the War Soul sword out of his hands, and Song Jianan was the only one. Immediately, Tang Zheng understood that the other party's cultivation was much higher than Yi Xuanji's. This was a difficult character to deal with. Song Jianan's cultivation was indeed higher than Tang Zheng's. He had already reached the master level several years ago. In these few years he had just broken through to the 4th level of the master level. He was 2 levels higher than Tang Zheng's cultivation. Looking at the painful expression on Tang Zheng's face, Song Jianan said proudly, "Now you've tasted the taste of my 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand. This is only the beginning. Next is the real show." 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. The pain just now was indeed like thousands of steel needles piercing into his skin. It lived up to its name. Since there was also the word bone-breaking, then the next step was definitely to break his bones. He did not guess wrong. This 1,000 needles bone-breaking hand was a ruthless method. When facing the enemy, Song Jianan's arm was soft as if it had no bones. It was like a snake wrapping around the opponent. Then his inner strength burst out. It was like thousands of steel needles piercing out of his skin, piercing into the opponent's skin and even into the bones. The next step was an even more tragic broken bone. The true chi that pierced into the bones would explode. A series of crackling sounds could be heard like the sound of firecrackers. It could cause the muscles and bones of a person to explode in an instant, turning them into a pile of mud. Break! Song Jianan roared again, tightly grabbing Tang Zheng. Chapter 780. Tang Zheng was in so much pain that he wanted to die, but he still clenched his teeth and endured it. He flipped his palm and grabbed Song Jianan's arm, and fiercely pushed his chi back. Like a spring, Tang Zheng used this force to shake himself out of Song Jianan's grasp. Song Jianan was a little surprised. He was sure of victory, but he was still able to escape. He really did have some skills. "Want to run? Stop right there." Song Jianan roared and chased after him like a maggot. Yi Dingdong's heart couldn't help but jump to her throat. She subconsciously grabbed Feng Xinyang's hand, and her palm was covered in cold sweat. Feng Xinyang sighed. What was the point of this? He cared so much but pretended to be indifferent. Of course, with Feng Xinyang's temper, how could she just stand by and watch Song Jianan bully the weak? She stood up and shouted, "Song Jianan, what you're doing is too despicable. You're bullying the weak and you even used a sneak attack. What kind of man are you?" Feng Xinyang's words made Song Jianan's expression change. He coldly snorted and said, "Women really do have long hair and short eyes. I'm helping your Ye family, and you're biting the hand that feeds you? Little handsome brother, you've helped the Ye family and you've helped me, Feng Xinyang. And since you're doing this, I can't just stand by and watch." She could sit by and watch Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdang break up, but she couldn't just stand by and watch Tang Zheng get bullied like this. That wasn't her style. Therefore, seeing injustice on the road, Feng Xinyang roared and rushed towards Song Jianan, shouting, "Stop!" With her cultivation, facing Song Jianan was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. But so what? She just couldn't stand Song Jianan. Yi Tianlei had already opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Yi Xuanji's face became even more gloomy as he shouted to stop her. "Feng Xinyang, stop right there." Feng Xinyang turned a deaf ear to him and directly grabbed at Song Jinan's back. Song Jinan turned his hand and hit back. Bang! Feng Xinyang was like a kite with a broken string. She flew backward and crashed into several pieces of furniture before stopping. Blood was flowing out from the corner of her mouth. Seeing this, Yi Dingdang was enraged and all the wolves in him lost their vigor. He shouted, "You dare to hurt her, I'll fight you to the death." Shwa! He raised his clear wind sword and thrust it forward as fast as lightning. The clear wind sword was as light as a feather. It was a true treasure sword. When paired with the wind-chasing sword art, it was truly wondrous. Song Jianan didn't put Yi Dingdang in his eyes at all. He didn't even turn his head as he tried to force Yi Dingdang back with a palm strike. However, his palm missed. With a flash of sword light, the Qingfeng sword pierced through his palm. Blood splattered everywhere. Bah! Song Jianan gave a pitiful cry as he forced back Tang Zheng. He suddenly turned around and stared at his palm. He saw that his palm had been pierced through by the clear wind sword and blood was dripping down. "You actually injured me?" He gritted his teeth and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Ever since he became famous, he had never been in such a sorry state. His palm had been pierced by a little girl who was still wet behind the ears. This was a great humiliation. However, he was also shocked in his heart. Other than the fact that he had underestimated his opponent, the most important reason was that Yi Dingdong's sword art was too exquisite. Caught him off guard. Of course, if he had been more careful, even if there were two Yi Dingdang, they wouldn't have been able to hurt him. All of this was a coincidence. But an injury was an injury. With so many pairs of eyes watching, there was no way to argue. The others were also stunned as they looked at the clear wind sword in Yi Dingdong's hand that was still dripping with blood. Suddenly Yi Tianlei shouted, "Dingdang, be careful." He threw himself at his daughter without a care for his own safety. This was because he had already seen the strong killing intent in Song Jian'an's eyes. Even if Yi Dingdang was a member of the Ye family, Song Jian'an would definitely kill her to protect his own face. He was not wrong. Song Jian'an really did make a move. Song Jian'an's large hand reached out to grab Yi Dingdang. With Yi Dingdong's cultivation, as long as she fell into his hands, it would be hard for her to escape. Yi Dingdang panicked and the clear wind sword turned into a blur as it quickly pierced towards Song Jian'an. However, Song Jian'an had already seen the power of the clear wind sword and had already thought of a way to avoid it. He easily dodged the sword and his large hand reached towards Yi Dingdong's head. "Don't." Yi Tianlei rushed over and his large fist carried the sound of wind and thunder as it flew towards Song Jian'an. Yi Tianlei flew out and spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. Song Jian'an's attack was slightly blocked and his hand fiercely descended. Yi Dingdang could not dodge and was almost in despair because she could clearly feel the pressure and aura coming from above her head. "Go to hell." Suddenly, a shout came from behind Song Jian'an. It was Tang Zheng's attack. Song Jian'an had been on guard against Tang Zheng. When he heard the sound, his other hand pushed backwards. The two palms fiercely hit each other. However, Song Jian'an did not feel that Tang Zheng was sent flying. Instead, he stuck to his palm like glue. What's going on? He felt that something was strange and felt a strong wind behind him. He had no choice but to give up on Yi Dingdang and turn around to face Tang Zheng. Another palm and the other two palms also stuck together. For eyes met and Song Jian'an felt a bit strange in his heart. Coincidentally, he saw the strange look in Tang Zheng's eyes, and his heart couldn't help but getting. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up and said, "Song Jian'an, taste this." As his voice fell, Tang Zheng activated the swallowing the sky technique. Whoosh! A trace of mysterious power was born from his palm. A huge suction force was immediately produced. It was like a huge black hole swallowing Song Jian'an's power. "Ah!" Song Jian'an cried out in shock. "Kid, what are you doing?" Tang Zheng laughed and said, "What do you think?" Of course, he was using the swallowing the sky technique to absorb Song Jian'an's power. This was the first time he used this function of the swallowing the sky technique in actual combat. When he felt the surging power coming from his palm, he felt that everything was so wonderful. The swallowing the sky technique is indeed extraordinary. Song Jian'an, you old man. Don't think that just because your cultivation is high, I can't deal with you. Tang Zheng was secretly pleased. "Let me go." Song Jian'an roared with a heart-wrenching voice. His power flowed out of his body like a flood. How could he panic? This was something he had never heard of or seen before. It actually made him feel a sense of dread. His power was everything to him. If he lost his power, then he was worthless. The Song family would also be annihilated in an instant. The others did not know what was going on. They only looked at the two people's palms. There was no shocking aura, nor was there a dazzling fight. It was so simple and calm. However, it made Song Jian'an feel as if his liver and guts were about to burst. Yi Xuanji's expression was complicated. He could not hide the horror in his eyes. Although he had lost to Tang Zheng, he did not expect that Tang Zheng would have such a strange skill that made Song Jian'an so scared and flustered. Song Yu's face had already turned from red from excitement to deathly pale. The matter of victory that was within his grasp had actually become turbulent again, which was something he had never expected. Yi Dingdong's eyes were filled with splendor as she stared straight at Tang Zheng. The corner of her mouth couldn't help but reveal a smile. This was the big hero she liked. No matter how strong the other party was, she dared to challenge them and was good at creating miracles. Everything in front of her was a miracle. Tang Zheng crazily operated the swallowing the sky technique, and his power quickly flowed into Song Jian'an's body. Song Jinan's face was already pale. He finally understood the danger he was facing. Tang Jing was absorbing his power. Although he did not know what method he used, he succeeded. Suddenly Song Jinan took a deep breath and his eyes almost popped out. This was because he felt that his cultivation had dropped by a level, from the 4th level of the Supreme Power Realm to the 3rd level of the Supreme Power Realm. Chapter 781. The speed at which Tang Jing absorbed the power was very fast. Song Jinan's cultivation dropped by another level, to the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. His face had already turned pale. This kind of blow almost made him collapse. He couldn't help but roar, "Tang Jing, what kind of demonic technique are you using? How can you absorb my power?" The others only saw that the two of them were in a stalemate, but they didn't know that Tang Jing was absorbing Song Jinan's power. When they heard these words, they were all shocked. Tang Jing felt that the surging power in his meridians was gathering in his dantian. It was completely absorbed by the golden core, and then it was continuously converted into genuine qi. He felt that his cultivation was soaring rapidly. Suddenly, a terrifying light burst out from his eyes, which was breathtaking. 3rd level of the golden core. Tang Jing exclaimed secretly. This was really a rocket-like speed. He had actually improved his cultivation so easily. This sky-swallowing technique was indeed extraordinary. It could absorb the enemy's power and immediately convert it into his own cultivation. No wonder some people would be immersed in this feeling and blindly use the sky-swallowing technique to improve their cultivation, forgetting to cultivate hard. Because this was really too tempting. Even he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. Song Jinan also noticed the change in Tang Jing's momentum. It was obvious that his strength had increased a lot. He became more and more shocked and cold sweat broke out on his head. As smart as he was, of course, he understood that Tang Jing must have absorbed his power and turned it into his own. He had never heard of this kind of divine skill. He couldn't help but feel that his liver and guts were about to burst. He shouted, hurry up." Song Yu's attack power had increased greatly. Yi Dingdang was overwhelmed by the dazzling sword technique. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang had been hit by Song Jinan's 2 palms and had lost their resistance. It was impossible for them to help Yi Dingdang. Yi Xuanji's expression changed. He hadn't lost his fighting strength, but he could only watch his granddaughter in danger. Song Yu's sword technique was very gaudy, but within the gaudy was an extremely sharp sword move that had a very strong bewildering effect. If an ordinary sword technique was too flashy, its attacking power would naturally be greatly reduced. However, this sword technique was different. It was unknown what kind of genius the creator of this sword technique was, to actually hide so many killing moves within the flashy sword technique, causing people to be unable to guard against them. It was another series of dazzling attacks. Yi Dingdang was at the center of the sword light. She brandished the clear wind sword to resist. However, most of Song Yu's sword moves were feints. She had no choice but to use her sword to block them, which consumed a lot of energy. Suddenly Yi Dingdang blocked another feint. A beam of sword light suddenly shot up from below, but she had no time to block it. If she was hit, her stomach would definitely be cut open. This was a real killing move. No. Tang Jing had been silently paying attention to the battle situation. Seeing this dangerous situation, he could no longer bear it and gave up on Song Jinan. His figure flashed and blocked in front of Yi Dingdang. The long sword cut open his clothes, leaving a long sword mark on his chest. Blood flowed out. Tang Jing frowned, but he did not retreat. Behind him was Yi Dingdang. He had no way to retreat, so he quickly reached out and grabbed the sharp long sword. Song Yu felt as if the long sword was caught in a vice. He could not move an inch. Seeing the murderous intent in Tang Jing's eyes, he was shocked. The long sword was broken into 2, and Tang Jing held onto one of the short swords, directly thrusting it towards Song Yu. Song Yu tilted his head to the back. Although he managed to avoid being hit in the vitals, his face still blossomed with blood. That handsome face of his was slashed open with a 10 centimeters long wound. Song Yu grimaced and quickly retreated. Song Jianan broke free, the soles of his feet were oiled. He shouted, run. Run. This was the only thought left in Song Yu's mind. He also knew that Tang Jing was not a match for him. Even the old man had suffered a loss. The opponent was ridiculously strong. The grandfather and grandson were like stray dogs. They no longer had the arrogance from before. They flew out of the hall. Tang Jing's anger had not subsided. He roared, "You want to run? Watch this sword." His palms sucked in the air and the war soul sword returned to his hand. Then with a sharp sound, the War Soul Sword flew out of his hand and flew towards Song Yu. The War Soul Sword pierced through Song Yu's back. Song Yu staggered and almost fell to the ground. Luckily Song Jianan lifted him up. With a leap, he jumped onto the roof and escaped without a trace. The War Soul Sword flew back. There were still traces of Song Yu's blood on the sword. Tang Zheng was not sure if the sword had killed Song Yu, but even if he did not die, he would lose a layer of skin. "How are you?" Yi Dingdang impatiently rushed in front of Tang Zheng. She saw that his chest was dyed red with blood. She could not see the wound clearly, but it was extremely sinister and terrifying. Her face immediately turned pale. She panicked and said, "Don't scare me. How are you?" At the critical moment, her feelings for Tang Zheng were revealed. Tang Zheng smiled. It was very bright like a child. "You can still smile." Yi Dingdang snappily scolded. Tang Zheng heartlessly smiled and said, "You still care about me." Yi Dingdang's cheeks turned red. She rolled her eyes at him and pretended to be calm as she said, "Who cares about you? Don't think too much. Seeing that you can smile, you must be fine." With that, she ran to the side. Her heart was beating like a deer. She took a few deep breaths to stabilize her emotions. "Dad, Feng Xinyang, how are you too?" When Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang saw that the enemy had been defeated, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. They forced themselves to stand up and shook their heads. "We're fine. It's good that you're fine." With that said, they looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. All sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. It was as if they had 1,000 words to say, but they did not know where to start. No one expected things to turn out like this. The Song family was crazy. They actually dared to lay their hands on Yi Dingdang. Their daughter was their precious treasure, their lifeblood. If they dared to lay their hands on Yi Dingdang, then they dared to fight with their lives on the line. The Song family's actions completely shattered the last trace of good feelings in their hearts. Now, no matter who wanted to matchmake Yi Dingdang and Song Yu, unless they stepped over their dead bodies, they could forget about succeeding. Tang Zheng glanced at the two of them. From their expressions, he already got the answer he wanted. This marriage was completely ruined by him. He smiled brilliantly again. "Father, it seems that we are not suitable to stay in this house, so we will immediately move out of this house." Yi Tianlei said resolutely to Yi Xuanji, who had been standing by the side and watching silently. Yi Xuanji's performance had disappointed them. Facing an external enemy, he did not care at all, as if their life and death had nothing to do with him. Yi Tianlei was truly angry. As a husband and father, if he continued to compromise and stay in this family, then he would look down on himself. He couldn't help but feel fortunate that he had made the right choice in leaving this family back then. Otherwise, who knew what kind of person he would have become? If he became like Yi Xuanji, then he would be extremely terrifying. And Yi Dingdang was also very likely to become like Yi Meiyu. Just thinking about it made him shudder. Leaving the Ye family once again, he did not hesitate. Instead, it was a form of relief. Perhaps he did not belong to this big family after all. Although his surname was Yi, the blood flowing in his body was already very different from the Ye family. Yi Tianlei looked at Yi Tianlei with a complicated expression. Hearing his resolute words, he did not object. He understood Yi Tianlei and knew that he had already made up his mind to leave. Of course, this was not the only reason why he did not urge him to stay. Another reason was the most important one, and that was because when he saw Tang Zheng fighting just now, he had already thought about a lot of things. If he helped Yi Dingdang, then the Ye family would completely break off from the Song family, and it would be difficult to repair this rift. The Song family was powerful, and this was something that he did not want to see. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, he would definitely not completely break off from the Song family, and would also not help Yi Dingdang. Furthermore, Tang Zheng was too powerful. If he broke off from the Song family and then repaired his relationship with Tang Zheng, or even used Yi Dingdang to marry him, he would definitely be able to gain Tang Zheng's good impression. But in this way, Tang Zheng would have one foot in the Ye family. With the speed at which Tang Zheng's strength soared, in a few years, no one in the Ye family would be able to suppress him. He would then be able to take everything from the Ye family for himself. The Ye family would no longer be surnamed Yi but Tang. This was the scene that Yi Xuanji did not want to see the most. If this really happened, he would feel ashamed to face the ancestors of the Ye family, and would not have the face to see them in the afterlife. With all these factors mixed together, Yi Xuanji decided to stand by and do nothing, causing Yi Tianlei's family of 3 to be completely disappointed. Yi Xuanji did not try to keep Yi Tianlei from leaving the family, because after they left, Tang Zheng would no longer have a legitimate reason to enter the Ye family. The Ye family would really be safe. In the future he would pass the Ye family to another son, and then the Ye family would still be surnamed Yi. His wishful thinking was very good, and ordinary people would not be able to guess what he was thinking. However, no one guessed because Yi Xuanji's actions were already chilling, and no one was bothered to guess. Tang Zheng was the happiest about the three of them leaving the Ye family. After leaving Yi Xuanji, no one could interfere with Yi Dingdong's freedom. This was definitely a good thing for him and Yi Dingdang. Moreover, Yi Dingdong's concern just now seemed to have activated the feelings in his heart. She still cared about him and liked him, but she deliberately put on a straight face. It was enough to confirm this point. He secretly sized up Yi Dingdang, only to discover that she was also looking at him from the corner of her eyes. When she saw his eyes, she felt as if she had been electrocuted and hurriedly retracted her gaze as if nothing had happened. Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. "Uncle Yi, let me help you." Seeing that Yi Tianlei could not move, Tang Zheng quickly offered his help and helped Yi Tianlei. Yi Tianlei looked at him with relief, nodded, and did not refuse. Yi Dingdang bit her lips, and the expression in her eyes kept changing. She also helped Feng Xinyang. Chapter 782. After leaving the Ye family, the three of them first found a hotel to stay in. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang both needed time to heal their wounds. Tang Zheng accompanied them the entire time and carefully took care of them while Yi Dingdang remained silent. After checking in, the three of them arrived at the luxurious suite. Yi Tianlei said with a face full of guilt, "Tang Zheng, thank you for helping us regardless of the past." Feng Xinyang also said, "Little handsome brother, only you truly care about our Dingdang." Yi Dingdang immediately lowered her head as her ears turned red. Tang Zheng faintly smiled, "This is what I should do. When I was in ordinary balance you all helped me so much. We didn't help you even 1/10 of what you did for us. Are your wounds serious?" Feng Xinyang stared at his chest. He had already changed his clothes, but she could still see the blood on his collar. Tang Zheng moved his muscles and said, "Do I look like I'm in trouble?" Along the way he had already used his qi to heal his wounds. Not only had the blood stopped flowing, but his wounds had also mostly healed under the effects of his qi. As his qi increased, the healing effects of his qi became more obvious. "You should go take a shower first and wash off the blood. Otherwise you won't feel good," Feng Xinyang suggested. "That's fine too. You all should rest first." Tang Zheng entered a bathroom and closed the door, blocking out the sound of running water. The Ye family of three sat in the living room and fell into silence for a while. In the end, Feng Xinyang took the lead and said, "Dingdang, raise your head. There is no gold on the ground. Tell me the truth, what are you and little handsome brother going to do?" Yi Dingdang bit her lips as she couldn't help but recall the scene of Tang Zheng blocking the sword for her. The emotions in her heart were indescribable, but in that instant she thought of the matter between him and other girls and her mood fell to the bottom as she hesitantly said, "I don't know." "If you don't know, then who knows?" Feng Xinyang asked back. "Then what do you want me to do? Do you like little handsome brother? Tell me the truth." "I like him." "Then that's it. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that he also likes you. Both of you are in love with each other. Isn't this good? Do you know how many people dream about this?" Yi Dingdang was silent. "Say it." Feng Xinyang was anxious. "But he still has other women in his heart." Yi Dingdang was forced into a corner and blurted out. Feng Xinyang and Yi Tianlei looked at each other and fell into silence. Yi Tianlei faintly sighed and said, "Tang Zheng is good at everything but he is fickle in love." Feng Xinyang rolled her eyes at him and said, "Isn't this a common problem for you men? Fickle radish." Yi Tianlei suffered an unexpected calamity and innocently defended himself. "I'm not fickle in love." "You want to?" "No, definitely not." Yi Tianlei shook his head in denial. Feng Xinyang directly ignored him and said to Yi Dingdang, "Daughter, although little handsome brother has this problem, he is very outstanding in other aspects. He is also very good to you. Just now he blocked the sword for you without any hesitation. Can other men do this?" Yi Dingdang was speechless. Of course she knew the answer. It was extremely difficult for other men to do this. "Since you both have each other in your hearts, but he has this problem, then what are you going to do?" Feng Xinyang asked. Yi Dingdang grabbed her hair in distress and buried her head in her knees. She muttered in confusion, "I don't know either." She really didn't know. Originally, she had made up her mind to cut all ties with Tang Zheng and completely disappear from his life. That was why she used Song Yu as a shield at school. But this time, Tang Zheng's actions completely disrupted her decision. From the time he rushed in to propose marriage without any hesitation, to the point of fighting, to the time he sacrificed himself to save her, every bit of it caused Yi Dingdong's heart to surge. Even if her heart was made of stone, it would still be melted by this action. Moreover, deep down in her heart she had always liked him. But she had never been able to convince herself to cross the hurdle in her heart. That was why she was so conflicted. She often thought that if she had known him earlier and fallen in love with him earlier, then perhaps there wouldn't be so many problems and they could fly away together. But when she thought about how outstanding Tang Zheng was and how other girls couldn't help but be attracted to him, she felt that even if that was the case, things might not go as she wished. Tang Zheng was like the brightest light, destined to attract many moths to the flame. Annoying, annoying, annoying. In short, she couldn't find the answer. Seeing her daughter so distressed, Feng Xinyang patted her shoulder and said, "Since you can't find the answer for now, then let nature take its course. Don't treat this little handsome guy as a life and death enemy. Slowly get to know him better and maybe you'll get to know him better." "Yeah, that's the only way." Yi Tianlei sighed. Although he felt that this would make his daughter suffer if they separated, it would be even more painful and a big mistake. Yi Dingdang raised her head and said blankly, "Really? Why don't you give yourself a chance and give him a chance? Who can say for sure what will happen in the future?" Feng Xinyang shrugged. "Listen to your mother, I have a few more decades of experience than you. There's nothing wrong with that." Yi Dingdang hesitated for a moment, then pouted and compromised, "All right then." Creak. The door opened and Tang Zheng came out in clean clothes saying, "You guys need to rest too. I'll take my leave after I'm done talking about something." Seeing him so serious, the three people's attention was drawn to him. "Actually, I went to the Ye family today to tell you guys about this matter. I was delayed just now." Tang Zheng continued, "You should all know about the demon race, right?" The three people nodded. The demon race was a branch of the cultivators. Moreover, there was the matter of the demon god descending. They had more or less heard some rumors. A few hundred years ago the cultivators were banished to the sky beyond heaven, but now the demon race has returned to this world. They are still in the island nation and no one knows when they will sneak back to Wuxia. The demon race has returned? The three people sucked in a breath of cold air. They had seen Tang Zheng's growth and strength. They had a more comprehensive and profound understanding of cultivators and understood the power of cultivators. Hearing that the demon race had returned, they were naturally shocked. Tang Zheng nodded heavily, "Yes, and it's not just one or two. It's estimated that the demon race's army has returned. Although the government already has a plan to deal with it, there will definitely be fish that slip through the net. If they set foot on this land, it won't just be a few people who will suffer, but everyone will be in danger. Perhaps, the few great families will be the first to be affected." The return of the demon race would definitely be a big move. The few great families were like meat on the chopping board and they were the fattest meat. The demon race would naturally choose to attack them. If they didn't take countermeasures as soon as possible, the few great families might be annihilated. Yi Tianlei naturally thought of this point and blurted out, "We must tell this news to father." Before he finished, he stopped. He had already left the Ye family and was no longer a member of the Ye family. Tang Zheng was very dissatisfied with Yi Xuanji and said, "Uncle Yi, I'm telling you this news because I don't want too many people to know about it. Do you understand?" Yi Tianlei wasn't an idiot and immediately understood Tang Zheng's thoughts. Whether the Ye family was destroyed or not was insignificant to Tang Zheng. Perhaps he was even happy to see it happen. Yi Tianlei secretly leaking information, Tang Zheng wouldn't approve of it. Although Yi Tianlei felt regretful, he didn't refute. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll listen to you. We'll keep this news in our stomachs." Feng Xinyang's feelings for the Ye family had long been exhausted. She was very satisfied with her husband's attitude and nodded approvingly. She asked, "Little handsome brother, then what should we do to deal with it?" "Try to raise your cultivation as much as possible and let your strength reach the peak." Tang Jing emphasized. "All right, we'll listen to you. During this time, our priority is to cultivate. After leaving the Ye family, we have nothing else to do." Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang nodded in agreement. "If there's any news, I'll inform you immediately. Also, if there's anything you need, you can contact me. I'll do my best. Also, if anyone comes to cause trouble for you, you must inform me immediately." Feng Xinyang's heart skipped a beat and asked, "You're worried about the Song family?" Tang Jing sneered, "I've absorbed a lot of Song Jianan's power and he can't even protect himself. If he still dares to stir up trouble, then he's seeking death. However, even if he doesn't stir up trouble, I won't let them go." These words contained a strong murderous aura, which made people feel very uneasy. Yi Tianlei quickly asked, "You want to chase after the Song family?" "Of course, I've been too kind to the Song family. They've gone against me time and time again. They're really old enemies. At the Martial Arts Society convention, Song Yu once drugged me, causing me to almost die in the ring. If it weren't for my luck, I might have been killed by them." Tang Jing gnashed his teeth in hatred. The old and new hatred added together was too much to count. "You're saying that Song Yu did something at the Martial Arts Society convention?" They still remembered Tang Jing's situation in the ring. He was surrounded by danger. If he was careless, he might have died in the ring. The Song family actually used such a despicable method of drugging. It was really despicable. Feng Xinyang was indignant. "I've long disliked the Song family. I didn't expect them to be such bad people. Little Handsome, fortunately you came in time. Otherwise, the Song family's wishes would have been fulfilled." Tang Jing smiled faintly. "It's not that I don't want to take revenge. It's just that the time hasn't come. Now that the time has come, I'll carefully settle the old and new grudges with them." "Then what are you going to do?" "After all, the Song family's mansion is a place that the Song family has operated for many years. It's definitely an impregnable fortress. It's not an easy bone to chew." Yi Tianlei sighed. "I haven't thought of the specific method yet, but it's necessary to take advantage of the situation. So, I'm going to act according to the circumstances when I reach the Song family. In short, the monk can run away but the temple can't. This time, I must deal with the Song family ruthlessly and leave them an unforgettable impression." "We'll help you," Feng Xinyang blurted out. Tang Jing smiled and shook his head in refusal. He said goodbye and left. Chapter 783. The two of them left the room without a word and walked into the elevator. The atmosphere was a little awkward. "Ding Dang, don't hide from me in the future," Tang Jing said firmly. Yi Ding Dang looked up and glanced at him, not saying anything. "You really don't want to talk to me?" Tang Jing asked mischievously. "Thank you," Yi Ding Dang said in a low voice. Tang Jing smiled indifferently. "This is what I should do. If someone harasses you in the future, tell me. I promise I'll beat him up until his mother can't recognize him." Yi Ding Dang rolled her eyes and said, "You only know how to hit people. Blind guy. If I don't hurt him, he won't know how powerful I am." Tang Jing waved his fist. "Violent maniac." Yi Ding Dang bit her lip and couldn't help but roll her eyes. Tang Jing laughed involuntarily. "You're even more violent than me. In high school you were the big sister of our school. Who knows how many people were afraid of you." Speaking of the embarrassing incident, Yi Ding Dang recalled and said, "But you were never afraid of me. You weren't scary to begin with. You were so beautiful and attractive." Tang Jing's mouth was as sweet as honey. If it were in the past, he would definitely not say such mushy words. But now that his relationship with Yi Ding Dang had improved, he was so excited that he blurted out such witty words. "You've really become bad. We're on the first floor. Let's go," Yi Ding Dang urged. "Walk with me for a while." "No, let's go." Yi Ding Dang pushed him out of the elevator and quickly closed the door. She leaned against the elevator, her heart thumping. Just now, a man and a woman were alone in a small enclosed space. She was afraid that Tang Jing would do something inappropriate. She didn't know how to deal with it. Perhaps she would fall into his trap. She shook her head and took a deep breath. Calm down, calm down. Don't think too much." Tang Jing left the hotel in satisfaction. He felt that his trip had not been in vain since he had improved his relationship with Yi Ding Dang. However, today's matter was not over yet. He immediately rushed to the Song family. Song family occupied a large area, and they were all modern buildings built around a lake. On this trip, Tang Jing did not think that he could keep a low profile, so he kicked the big iron door. The iron door fell down with a bang, scaring the guards who came to greet him. Tang Jing didn't say a word. In just a few moves, he directly defeated the guard and knocked him to the ground, crying out in pain. Then he rushed straight to the Song family's main building. It was a luxurious 3-story European-style villa. "Song Jianan, don't be a coward. Come out." Tang Jing roared like a loudspeaker. His voice spread in all directions, startling the birds in the forest and causing them to flap their wings and fly into the sky. There was no response. The servants and guards looked at the uninvited guest from afar. They never thought that there would be someone who dared to be so arrogant in the Song family. He pointed out Song Jianan's name and shouted at him. Moreover, Song Jianan seemed to have disappeared and did not respond. Tang Jing frowned and said, "Don't tell me you're going to run away so quickly. You can run away from the monk, but you can run away from the temple. I don't believe you're willing to part with such a big family business." The others did not understand what he meant. They heard him continue, "Everyone in this building come out. Otherwise don't blame me if you're buried alive." A large group of people ran out of the building. They looked at him in horror, not knowing what he was going to do. The corner of Tang Jing's mouth curled up into a smile, he opened his palm, and the War Soul Sword appeared in his palm. Then he pointed forward, and the War Soul Sword turned into a sword light, fiercely slashing at a few pillars of the building. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy pillars were like tofu under War Spirit. They were cut in half. The building immediately creaked and was on the verge of collapse. "Song Jianan, you can continue to be a coward. Today I will tear down your entire house." Boom. A loud sound covered Tang Jing's voice. The building actually collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the sky and spread in all directions. Tang Jing frowned. The Song Jianan was really determined. Tang Jing had created such a big scene, but he still avoided meeting him. Shwa. Suddenly, a sword light lit up in the smoke and dust. It slashed towards Tang Jing. It was extremely sharp. "Ah, good sword technique," Tang Jing exclaimed. He held War Spirit tightly and welcomed it. In the smoke and dust, sword light flashed in all directions. Sparks flew everywhere. Only a series of ping 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 sounds could be heard. However, the two figures could not be seen clearly. The surrounding people were all excited. Finally, someone stood up to defend against this uninvited guest. Suddenly, two figures soared into the sky from the smoke and dust and landed in front of the lake. Finally, they could see each other's appearance clearly. Tang Jing's pupils slightly shrank. The other party was in his 30s and held a long sword in his hand. His entire body was like a sword, as if he had become one with the sword in his hand. Just now, the two of them had exchanged no less than 100 moves. Tang Jing could clearly feel the power of the other party's sword techniques. In terms of sword techniques, it was already a rare sword technique. His sword technique was very simple and concise. It was different from Song Yu's fancy sword technique. It was somewhat similar to the wind-chasing sword technique, but it was also very different. His sword technique focused on fast attacks. Moreover, there were not many moves. Back and forth, Tang Jing had already experienced all the moves. There were only a total of 13 moves. A set of sword techniques with a total of 13 moves was already very concise. If it was not created by a sword master, it would be impossible to create such a set of sword techniques. The other party was obviously a sword master, and his cultivation was definitely not low. Tang Jing roughly estimated that he was probably a great master martial artist. "Strange, I've never heard of such a sword master in the Song family," Tang Jing muttered, but he couldn't help but think of Song Yu's fancy sword technique. Could it be that Song Yu's sword technique was taught by this person? However, the sword moves of the two were completely different. Let's take this person down first. Then the truth will be revealed." Tang Jing raised his sword and attacked again. Since his opponent was using a sword, he naturally disdained to use a divine weapon like the heaven-shocking bow to fight against him. He wanted to use his sword techniques to defeat his opponent fair and square. The sword technique of the heaven-flying immortal had many changes, and they were all upright sword moves, with a terrifying aura. When Tang Jing's wrist shook, he raised the War Soul Sword. Wah! The surface of the lake rippled and even created a wave. Together with the unparalleled sword technique, it attacked the enemy. The opponent's expression did not change. With a stomp of his feet, he stepped on the tip of the grass and flew up. The tip of the sword touched the surface of the water, and the sword actually bent and bounced back in an instant. However, a few drops of water had already shot out from the tip of the sword like bullets. Bang! The water droplets blossomed on the War Soul Sword, and the huge force caused the War Soul Sword to buzz. A numbing feeling came from the center of his palm, showing how powerful the water droplets were. Tang Jing shouted out, "Good!" as the battle spirit sword was already in front of the opponent. With a schwa sound, the sword light was oppressive as it pierced towards the opponent's upper, middle and lower body 3 times, all of which were aimed at the vital points. Clang, 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 clang. The 3 sword strikes were extremely fast, blocking Tang Jing's 3 sword strikes. Furthermore, they were all sword moves that Tang Jing had seen before. The 13 sword moves in his opponent's hands were used to perfection, causing people to exclaim from the bottom of their hearts. Tang Jing continued to attack quickly, using speed to fight speed. Not long later, There were only the two's erratic afterimages and the crisp sounds of the two swords clashing by the lake. In the end, the two of them moved the battlefield from the land to the lake. They stepped on the water surface and moved towards the center of the lake. This test was not only about sword moves, but also about overall strength. The two of them stepped on the surface of the lake, but did not fall into the water. Not long after, the two sides showed the difference. Tang Zheng's shoes were not wet at all, but his opponent's shoes were completely wet. Who was stronger and who was weaker was already obvious. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up and said with a smile, "Your cultivation is not as good as mine, but your sword technique is not bad. You are bitterly holding on, but in the end you are not my opponent." The opponent did not say a word and silently moved his sword. "Your sword technique is so powerful. What sect do you come from? What is your relationship with the Song family?" Tang Zheng asked in a powerful voice. The opponent did not say a word, as if he was mute. Tang Zheng stared at the sharp sword light, and his heart suddenly moved. There were very few sword masters in this world, and the most famous was of course the sword god. Tang Zheng had seen the power of the sword god with his own eyes. If it was not for luck, he would have died at the hands of the sword god. The sword god established the sword pavilion, and there were many sword slaves in the sword pavilion. They were not weak, and their sword techniques could be considered to have many highlights. Moreover, he also had personal disciples. In the sinkhole in the Changbai mountain, he had seen the sword god's disciple with his own eyes, and it had left a deep impression on him. This person's sword technique was so powerful. Could it be that he also came from the sword pavilion or even the sword god's disciple? "You are the sword god's disciple?" Tang Zheng suddenly asked in surprise. The opponent was clearly stunned for a moment, and there was immediately a flaw in his sword technique. Obviously, Tang Zheng had hit the nail on the head. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. With a heaven-flying immortal, the opponent's chest was hit by the sword and fell into the lake. "You are indeed the sword god's disciple." Tang Zheng was certain of this from the other party's reaction. "Where is he?" Tang Zheng wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to pursue, but he found that the other party had already disappeared from the lake. "Are you playing hide and seek with me? War Soul Sword, go." Tang Zheng pointed his finger, and the War Soul Sword shot into the lake. At the bottom of the lake, the sword light flashed, illuminating the entire lake. The lake water surged with stormy waves, like a surging sea. Boom! A pillar of water soared into the sky, and the enemy appeared. His clothes were already dyed red with blood, and the War Soul Sword chased after him and attacked him non-stop. He reacted in a panic and was no longer as skilled as before. It was obvious that Tang Zheng's sword was not weak, and had caused him quite a bit of damage. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up and he said proudly, "Now that I've appeared, let's see where you can run to." Since the other party was the sword god's disciple, then he definitely knew something about the Azure Dragon Palace. Tang Zheng was worried that he wouldn't be able to find the Azure Dragon Palace, but the other party actually delivered it to him. Tang Zheng pounced forward, using the heaven-flying immortal sword technique, causing the enemy to retreat step by step. In the end, he retreated to the shore, and with a pu sound, he received another sword strike, causing blood to immediately flow out from his calf. Chapter 784. "You are the disciple of the famous sword god. I wonder how I should address you?" Tang Zheng asked with a smile. Sword 13. The other party had already seen through his identity, so Sword 13 did not hide it anymore. "So you're not a mute?" Sword 13, 13 swords, it's very appropriate. Your sword technique is very strange, it's only 13 moves, but its power is boundless. Tang Zheng praised. Sword 13 coldly snorted and said, "Of course, this was created by Master." Tang Zheng's eyes were filled with admiration. Although the sword god was an enemy, he had no choice but to sincerely admire his attainments in sword techniques. His disciples all had different sword techniques, but they were all created by him. Just this creativity was something that ordinary people could not compare to. A dignified disciple of the sword god actually appeared in the Song family, and Song Yu miraculously possessed a powerful sword technique. In that case, Song Yu is also a disciple of the sword god? Tang Zheng, you've gone too far. Not only did you heavily injure junior brother Song, you've even killed your way to our door. As the eldest senior brother, how can I sit idly by? Sword 13 said angrily. So you're still the eldest senior brother. I've already met your other junior brother in Changbai Mountain. I wonder how many disciples the sword god has? Master has a total of 3 disciples, each of them is sword 8, an expert in sword techniques, and has a unique comprehension of sword techniques. Tang Jing nodded and said, so it's 3 people. The sword god even took in a villain like Song Yu as his disciple. It seems like he's only SOSO. How dare you, how can Master allow you to insult him? Sword 13 roared with a flushed face, trying to resist, but with the War Soul sword pressed against his throat, he was unable to move. Why can't the sword god be insulted? Actually, I've always wanted to find him, but I didn't know where to find him, so you ran out. This is exactly what I wanted. Tang Jing smiled like a big bad wolf. Sword 13's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly asked, why are you looking for Master? To inquire about the Azure Dragon Palace. However, as his direct disciple and also the eldest senior brother, you must know some things about the Azure Dragon Palace. Why don't you tell me? Azure Dragon Hall. Sword 13's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. Your reaction has already betrayed you. You definitely know about the Azure Dragon Palace. Are you going to tell me yourself, or do you want me to force you to tell me? If I do, you will definitely suffer a lot. Jian Shisan raised his neck as if he was a brave warrior that had sacrificed himself for a cause, and he said in an awe-inspiring and fearless manner, if you want to kill me, then do as you please. You want me to reveal information about the Azure Dragon Hall? Dream on. Is that so? I have my ways even if you don't tell me. Tang Jing was very confident. Jian Shisan was an enemy, although his integrity was respectable, Tang Jing did not plan to be merciful. Jian Shisan was a grandmaster martial artist. If he were to let the tiger return to the mountain, then there would be no end of trouble. No matter what, he could not be soft-hearted. Moreover, Sword 13 even knew the information about the Azure Dragon Palace. If Tang Jing did not take away this information, then it would be even more impossible to find the Azure Dragon Palace. Jian Shisan glared fiercely at Tang Jing. He did not believe that the other party could pry open his mouth. Tang Jing's expression turned cold, he made a move like lightning and grabbed Jian Shisan's head. Jian Shisan exclaimed, "What are you doing?" Tang Jing immediately activated the soul-searching technique, and the information in his mind flashed before Tang Jing's eyes like a movie. "Let me go, my head hurts." Jian Shisan roared in a heart-wrenching manner. The soul-searching technique had a side effect which could cause people to become retarded. However, Jian Shisan's cultivation was deep and his perseverance was outstanding. He actually resisted the side effect and did not become a fool. Jian Shisan felt something in his heart and exclaimed, "You're reading my brain." Tang Jing looked at him in surprise. He could even feel this. A grandmaster martial artist was indeed extraordinary. Don't even think about succeeding. The light in Jian Shisan's eyes exploded as he grabbed onto the War Soul Sword. The War Soul Sword pierced into his throat, cutting off his windpipe. Jijie. The corner of Jian Shisan's mouth revealed a complacent smile, and he was already speechless. You actually committed suicide." Tang Jing turned pale with fright. He was truly shocked. In order to preserve the information in his mind, Jian Shisan was actually willing to give up his life. Just what kind of organization was the Azure Dragon Palace to be able to nurture such a death warrior? Jian Shisan's eyes were completely devoid of life as he fell to the ground with a loud bang. A grandmaster of a generation, a great swordsman, ended his life just like that. Tang Jing did not have time to sigh with emotion. The more the other party did this, the more he wanted to know more about the Azure Dragon Palace. If he did not know anything about the Azure Dragon Palace, then who knows when the other party would stab him in the back, and by then it would be too late. He hurriedly sorted out the information he had searched. Although it was only a part of it, it had already enlightened him. Jian Shisan really does know a lot about the Azure Dragon Palace. Tang Jing sighed. It turned out that the Azure Dragon Palace was an ancient organization that was created by New Era back then. It had been hundreds of years since then. When he thought of New Era, Tang Jing couldn't help but think of the matter of him expelling the cultivators. New Era could be said to be at the peak of the martial artists, and from ancient times until now, he was the only one who had accomplished such a feat. Although the cultivators were expelled, New Era was not satisfied, and secretly established the Azure Dragon Palace. At the beginning, there was only the Azure Dragon Palace, and they were responsible for hunting down some of the cultivators who had escaped the net. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Palace had created a team of assassins that caused people to tremble at the mention of their name, Flying Guillotine. Many of the fish that had escaped the net had died at the hands of the Flying Guillotine, and their huge heads were hung on the city walls for public display. After several years of killing, all the cultivators in the world were finally wiped out. However, New Era did not give up. He had planned ahead and expected that there would definitely be cultivators in the future. After all, cultivators had left behind many cultivation techniques in this world. Therefore, he divided the Azure Dragon Palace into two branches, Martial Sect and Li Palace. The Martial Sect was responsible for killing the cultivators who had revived from the ashes, while the Li Palace was responsible for collecting information from all over the world. However, these two organizations were relatively independent existences. Other than a very small number of people who knew about the relationship between the two, no one else knew anything about it. As for the Azure Dragon Palace, it was completely hidden behind the scenes and only passed down in legends. Ordinary people would never be able to know anything about the Azure Dragon Palace. The master of the Azure Dragon Palace was called the Revered Lord, and even the Sword 13 did not know his true appearance. He had only seen him once from afar and was extremely mysterious. Currently there were a total of 4 great organizations under the Azure Dragon Palace: Martial Sect, Li Palace, Sword Pavilion, and the most mysterious Flying Guillotine. The Flying Guillotine had not appeared in the world for more than 100 years, and even the Sword 13 had only heard about it from the Sword God. However, it was said that the Flying Guillotine was the most mysterious power in the Revered Lord's hands, and every one of them had at least the cultivation of a great master martial artist. As for the exact number of people, the Sword 13 did not know, but without a doubt how terrifying the killing power of a team formed by great master martial artists was. Immediately, Tang Jing felt a chill run down his spine. So, there was such a terrifying force hidden in the land of Wuxia. As for the exact location of the Azure Dragon Palace, Tang Jing was unable to find it. He could not help but feel extremely regretful. If he were to search through all the information in the Sword 13's mind, he would probably know even more secrets of the Azure Dragon Palace. Looking at the wide-eyed Sword 13 who had died with grievances, Tang Jing shook his head and did not pay any more attention to him. He raised his head and looked at the vast Song family, then raised his voice and shouted, "Song Jianan, Song Yu, listen up, don't think that you can sit back and relax with the Sword God's protection. Today if you don't come out and watch the Sword 13 die for you, I think the Sword God will be furious. There will be a day when you appear. At that time, not only me, even the Sword God will not let you off." The other servants and guards kept quiet out of fear. They looked around but did not see the appearance of the Song Jianan grandfather and grandson. Tang Jing shook his head helplessly. No matter how he provoked them, there was nothing he could do if they were determined not to show themselves. As for the others, he did not plan to do anything. After all, he was not a bloodthirsty person. Although these people were members of the Song family, they did not deserve to die. Thus, he leaped and left the Song family as fast as lightning. In a hidden underground fortress, the backbone of the Song family gathered together in fear. Just now, the scene of Tang Jing causing a ruckus in the Song family had already been transmitted from various cameras. Seeing Tang Jing being so brave and extraordinary, and even the Sword God's disciple, the Sword 13, committing suicide in the end, one could imagine the shock they received. Song Jianan stood with an ashen face, looking at Song Yu who was lying on the bed. Song Yu's body was wrapped in gauze like a mummy. Song Yu's face was as pale as paper. Recalling the scene just now and the scene of the War Soul sword piercing his back, he could not help but tremble non-stop. This time he was truly scared out of his wits by Tang Jing, especially when even his eldest senior brother, the Sword 13, whom he had always respected, was unable to escape from Tang Jing's hands, which made him shudder even more. The Sword 13 had practiced the sword since he was young, and was extremely hard-working. At the age of 30, he had already reached the first stage of the Grandmaster stage and could be said to be a genius. Song Yu had already acknowledged the Sword God as his master for more than 10 years, and had always kept it a secret. Other than Song Jianan, even his father did not know. Song Yu's potential was obviously not as good as the Sword 13's, but he could still be considered one of the best among the younger generation. Due to the restrictions of the Sword God, he did not display his strength in front of others, and was even treated by many people as if he did not have the strength to truss a chicken. He had always been waiting for the day when he soared into the sky, causing everyone to be shocked and their jaws to drop. However, he did not wait for this day but instead received this huge blow. Tang Jing's speed was like a ruthless slap to Song Yu's face, causing the complacency in his heart to vanish into thin air. "Eldest senior brother is dead, what should we do now?" Song Yu said in shock. The other backbone of the Song family kept quiet out of fear. No one dared to answer and all looked at Song Jianan. Song Jianan muttered to himself in silence, staring at the corpse of the Sword 13. They only saw the scene of the previous battle, but did not hear the conversation between the two. But in the end they heard Tang Zheng's loud roar clearly. Chapter 785. Song Jianan's expression kept changing as he looked at the guards and servants on the screen. With so many witnesses, even if he wanted to hide it, it would be very difficult. Kill them all. Song Jianan's eyes were filled with killing intent as he roared. When the others heard this, they jumped in fright. Family head, who do we kill? All of you, get out and kill everyone outside. Don't leave a single one alive. Song Jianan said with killing intent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at him in disbelief. Song Yu's heart skipped a beat as she guessed what the family head was thinking. She immediately urged, "That's right, kill them. Then Shizhuan will only think that eldest senior brother died at Tang Zheng's hands. Then all the responsibility will be placed on Tang Zheng and our Song family will be able to stay out of this." The others weren't idiots and immediately understood. Their eyes also became fervent. Kill them all. Everyone cheered and jumped for joy. Song Jianan's eyes trembled as he shouted, "Then what are you still doing here? Hurry up and go." A moment later, the scene on the screen became particularly bloody. The guards and servants were completely unprepared and were all killed by the core members of the Song family. Blood dyed the ground red. Song Jianan clenched his fists, blue veins popping out. He gritted his teeth and said, "Tang Zheng, I will return all of this to you in the future. I will make you beg for death." In the Yan family, Tang Zheng received a great welcome. Yan Qishan and Yan Luyun were at the door to welcome him. After Tang Zheng left the Song family, he decided to go to the Yan family and tell them about the demon race so that they could prepare. The news of Tang Zheng killing his way to the Song family had already spread. After all, the Song family was a big family. With such a big commotion, it was impossible to hide it. As a result, the entire capital was shaken. It was like a large earthquake. No one had ever dared to challenge an entire family by himself. This was something that no one had ever dared to do. However, Tang Zheng had done it. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, there was no falsehood at all. The Yan family also knew this, so when they saw Tang Zheng, the father and son looked a little strange. Tang Zheng's strength had already far surpassed them, and was even comparable to the Yan family. Back then, who would have thought that Tang Zheng would be able to reach this step so quickly? No one. As a result, the two of them admired the old man Yan Potion's decision from the bottom of their hearts. Ginger was indeed spicier as it got older. To bet everything on Tang Zheng so early on, it was simply too wise, and many people were probably already extremely envious of him. It was foreseeable that after this battle, many people would take the initiative to offer their affection to Tang Zheng in an attempt to obtain his appreciation or protection. In the past, although Tang Zheng had gradually revealed his edge in the hearts of the people, it was still difficult for him to contend against the few great families. But now, it was different from the past. His edge had completely overshadowed the few great families, and he was a new and powerful force. If he did not curry favor early, then he would be an idiot. As for whether or not they would offend the Song family, many people did not care. After all, Tang Zheng's strength had already overshadowed the Song family, so what if the Song family had any objections? He still couldn't stir up any waves. Therefore, the Yan family attached great importance to Tang Zheng's initiative to visit. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two of them arrived at the guest hall together. Yan Padian had been waiting for a long time. Facing Yan Padian, Tang Zheng was very modest. Yan Padian could not hide the joy in his eyes, and took the initiative to invite Tang Zheng to sit at the seat of honor. "Young Master Tang, everyone has witnessed your great generosity today. It's truly shocking," Yan Padian said emotionally. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I won't be merciful," Tang Zheng said resolutely. Yan Padian nodded his head. "Young heroes, it should be so. Song family has been jumping around a lot recently. After this battle, they can stop for a while. It's even better if they don't stop. Then they won't be cowards and I can find them," Tang Zheng said hatefully. This time, Song Jianan did not come out but let Sword 13 fight alone. In the end, Sword 13 died, but they still did not come out. They really are bastards. Hiding and not coming out? Yan Padian asked suspiciously. "Are you saying that old man Song Jianan did not appear, and instead let Sword 13 fight?" "That's right." The three people from the Yan family looked at each other with strange expressions. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, "Is there something wrong?" Yin Luyun took a deep breath and interrupted, "Young Master Tang, the rumors outside are completely different from this. Rumor has it that after a great battle not only did you kill Sword 13, you also killed over 100 people from the Song family. The Song family can be said to be flowing with blood like a river and corpses everywhere." "What?" Tang Jing jumped up from the sofa. "Calm down." Seeing his big reaction, Yen Patian hurriedly advised. How could Tang Jing not be shocked? This was too different from the truth. Song family's intentions are sinister, to actually spread such an outrageous lie. Lies, isn't this true? The three people from the Yin family asked suspiciously. Tang Jing's expression turned cold and said, "Of course it's not true, only Sword 13 died and it was suicide. Some of the other guards were only injured by me and did not die. How could I have killed everyone?" But the Song family's blood flowed like a river and corpses were everywhere. All of the guards and servants were dead. Many people are saying that you are actually so cruel. Yen Luyun said. Cruel? Tang Jing was unable to restrain his anger and laughed in anger. He did not kill a single person, but he was said to be cruel, and the Song family relied on their power to bully others. How many people died in their hands? Yen Patian hit the nail on the head. Since the rumors are far from the truth, then there must be something fishy going on. Then who killed these people? A thief calling out to catch a thief. Other than Song Jianan, who else could it be? Tang Jing sneered. Why did he kill so many people? Tang Jing had an idea and said, I know this is a framing, eliminating all the witnesses and then pushing all of this onto me. Otherwise, if outsiders hear that the Song family is hiding and not coming out, wouldn't that be a joke to the world? Now they have transferred a lot of their anger to me while the Song family has played the role of a victim. More importantly, all of this is probably related to the death of Sword 13. Tang Jing was very smart, and immediately saw through the other party's scheme. This kind of framing trick was not clever, and one did not need to be too smart to see through it with a single glance. The other three people's hearts stirred, and they also guessed the reason and said, You're saying that those people were all killed by the Song family themselves, and then blamed it on you, causing the Sword God to vent his anger on you, and the Song family to completely disassociate themselves from it? Tang Jing nodded and said with a bit of a chill in his heart, So you can see how sinister and cunning the Song family is, and how unscrupulous they are. Yen Luyun sucked in a cold breath and said, To actually do such a thing to their own people, they are truly insane. Tang Jing, your guess should be correct. Yen Patian said in a deep voice, The Song family has never been a benevolent dog generation. Back then, their ancestors relied on their ruthlessness and unscrupulous methods to make their fortune. It seems that their descendants have also inherited this point. But this is too cruel. He even did such a vicious thing to his own people and killed so many people. Yen Luyun said with lingering fear. Tang Jing, on the other hand, was not surprised at all. He had even seen people who sacrificed tens of thousands of lives to activate the Mountain River blood sacrifice array, so the Song family was nothing compared to them. Although the Song family is vicious, they have made contact with the Sword God, which is already powerful enough. The Sword God will definitely listen to their lies and aim his hair at you, young Master Tang. The Sword God is not like Song Jianan, so it will be troublesome when the time comes. Yen Qishan said worriedly. Yen Patian and Yen Luyun also nodded in agreement. The Sword God was too mysterious to them, so they naturally couldn't help but respect him. You don't have to worry. I've already clashed head-on with the Sword God. He's not that scary. Tang Jing said indifferently, but he did not say the second half. He was not worried about the Sword God, but the Azure Dragon Palace behind him. When the three people from the Yen family heard this, they were once again greatly shocked. Tang Jing had actually exchanged blows with the Sword God. Seeing him make such a solemn vow, the three of them had complicated feelings and said, But we can't let our guard down. Now, everyone knows that the Song family and the Sword God have an extraordinary relationship, and Song Yu is even the disciple of the Sword God. Although the Song family has gone through this great calamity and lost all face, no one dares to underestimate him, and the Song family will not fall immediately. The Song family revealing this information can be said to be killing two birds with one stone. They are truly old foxes. In the future, when they have nowhere to hide, I will definitely take care of them. Let's get down to business first. This time, I am here to warn you of one thing. The Demon Clan has already returned. Tang Jing briefly told them about how the 100 Transformation Star Lord had used the Mountain River blood sacrifice array to summon the Demon Clan back, as well as the country's countermeasures. The three of them were stunned at the same time. They did not dare to underestimate this news and hurriedly asked about the details of the demon clan. Tang Jing told them everything he knew and answered them in detail. With the return of the demon clan, this world is about to suffer a calamity. Tang Jing, your mission is here. A clear voice came from outside the living room. Yan Qingyi was still wearing a green Taoist robe, with her hair tied up in a bun and a hairpin inserted into it. She leisurely walked over without any makeup. My mission. What mission? Tang Jing did not understand. The other three also looked at her in confusion. Yan Qingyi walked straight in front of Tang Jing and said, the demon clan will destroy this world, and your mission is to turn the tide, save the people from hanging upside down, and return peace to the world and return peace to the people. Tang Jing was stunned. You're the savior. Yan Qingyi added in a resolute tone. Yan Potion's expression was bewildered. Didn't Yan Qingyi say that he would not tell Tang Jing about this prophecy back then? He was afraid that it would interfere with his decisions, so why did he suddenly say it out loud today? Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had never thought of being a savior, and he did not have such a high level of awareness. Furthermore, it was not that easy to be a savior. A savior often meant a great sacrifice. Wasn't that how it played in movies? Either the death of a loved one or the death of a loved one. In short, the savior seemed to be glorious, but in reality, there was a pain that outsiders did not know about. Chapter 786. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Stop joking, I'm not some savior. You are. Yan Qingyi said stubbornly, this is your fate. My fate is my own business. I don't even know, so how do you know? Because I saw your fate. Tang Jing looked at her strangely and said, when did you change your profession to become a fortune teller? Qingyi, don't spout nonsense. Seeing that Tang Jing still did not believe him, Yan Patian immediately stopped him. Yan Qingyi, on the other hand, was very persistent. She bent down and almost touched Tang Jing's face, and the two pairs of eyes were very close. Observing Yan Qingyi at such a close distance, it had to be said that she was truly beautiful. She was naturally beautiful without any makeup, and her loose Taoist robe was unable to completely conceal her alluring expression, especially her towering breasts, which were especially eye-catching when she bent down. Yan Qingyi did not notice Tang Jing's impudent gaze from the corner of her eyes at all. She stared straight at him and said, I'm not spouting nonsense. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not. This is your fate. You are the savior. His words were so convincing that after Tang Jing was stunned, he could no longer treat it lightly. He didn't have much interaction with Yan Qingyi, but he knew that this person was not someone who would speak without thinking. Why was she so stubborn and determined that he was the savior of the world? What was the reason? Tang Jing slowly restrained his expression and asked, you said that you saw my fate. How can fate see it? I can see what will happen in the future. Yan Qingyi did not hide anything. Tang Jing's pupils dilated. He had never heard of such a thing. It could be said to be a miracle, but there were too many things in the world that could not be explained by science, and they might not all be fake. After all, even cultivators had appeared, so everything was possible. Prophecy. Tang Jing exclaimed. Yan Qingyi nodded, more or less. This was the first time she had admitted her ability to anyone other than her family. Tang Jing couldn't help but look at Yan Qingyi again. She was neither a martial artist nor a cultivator. She didn't even have the strength to truss up a chicken, yet she knew how to use the divination technique. How do you know prophecy? I don't know, but I just can. My prophecy about you is especially strong. Yan Qingyi said. What? Maybe it's because you're the savior. Hearing her mention the savior again, Tang Jing's expression became solemn. Does the prophecy really show that I will be the savior? Yan Qingyi nodded seriously. Tang Jing's expression was unprecedentedly solemn as he said, I never wanted to be a savior. What else is there in your prophecy? Why is this world in danger of destruction? Is it because of the demons? That's right. When the demon army arrived, the people were plunged into an abyss of misery and suffering. This world was on the verge of collapse, but it was you alone who turned the tide. When did that happen? Yan Qingyi shook his head. My prophecy technique is not that accurate, I can only make a rough prediction. Seeing that he had already revealed it, Yan Patian asked, Qingyi, you didn't mention the demon clan and the upcoming crisis. Could it be that you have made a new discovery recently? Yes, there has been a major breakthrough in the divination technique recently. The scene I saw has become clearer. Tang Zheng stood alone at the peak of the towering mountain, and at the foot of the mountain was the demon clan army. Tang Zheng fought alone, and in the end the demon clan army was defeated and this world was lucky. I fought against the demon clan army by myself and I won in the end. Tang Zheng exclaimed in disbelief. This was truly beyond his imagination. With his cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to do this. Yan Qingyi said with incomparable certainty, "Yes, as for the specific process I am not clear, but in the end you were victorious, standing at the peak of the mountain, and at the foot of the mountain were the remnants of the defeated demon clan army." What do you mean by not knowing the specific process? My prophecy technique is just some intermittent scenes. Yan Qingyi said regretfully. Then can you describe that mountain in detail? Mountain? Yan Qingyi asked curiously. Alright, this mountain is very majestic as if it is connected to the sky. It is covered in white snow and people feel very small in front of this mountain. Is that it? Tang Zheng asked in disappointment. There were too many high mountains and steep ridges in the land of Wuxia. This description was too general and many famous mountains were in line with it. Yan Qingyi frowned and started to think hard. The others all looked at her. The information expressed in this conversation was too much. In the past, the Yan family had only heard that Tang Zheng would be the savior of the world, but they did not know the specific details. This time they heard that the demon army had besieged Tang Zheng, and in the end Tang Zheng was victorious, so they also wanted to know more specific details. After a while, Yan Qingyi raised her head and said, "There is a very strange place in one of the scenes." "Oh, what strange place?" "There seems to be a ladder on the mountain peak extending into the sky, leading to who knows where." Yan Qingyi said doubtfully. There was a ladder on the mountain peak extending into the sky. No matter how you looked at it, it was extremely strange and did not conform to common sense. So much so that she had subconsciously overlooked it. If not for Tang Zheng's repeated questioning, she would not have thought of this scene. Tang Zheng became excited, his breathing rushed as he cried out in alarm, "Celestial stairway, you are describing the celestial stairway." He finally knew where this mountain was. Mount Buzhou. In the end, he actually went to Mount Buzhou again and rebuilt the celestial stairway. Since the celestial stairway was built, the sky beyond heaven was naturally not an untouchable place. The sky beyond heaven was open to other righteous cultivators. In the end, you saw me standing on the mountain peak while the demon army fled in all directions. Did you see anyone else? Since Yan Qingyi saw the demon army, she should have seen the righteous cultivators come down from the celestial stairway and defeat the ancestor of Mo's army. This was the most likely thing. No. Yan Qingyi said. Try to recall again, was there anyone else? There really wasn't. Yan Qingyi said firmly. This? Tang Zheng's brows tightly knitted together again. This did not conform to common sense at all. Without the help of the righteous cultivators, how could he let the demon army escape? One question after another drilled into his mind, causing him to be at a loss for a while, unable to find an answer. Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, the others cautiously asked, "Tang Zheng, what's the problem?" Tang Zheng slowly shook his head and said, "I'll tell you the truth, with my cultivation, it is not enough to fight the demon army alone. Since the other party chased to the foot of the mountain, it means that I have no way to deal with it." And she said that I defeated the demon army with my own strength. This matter is contradictory, there is no reasonable explanation. But my prophecy is not wrong. Yan Qingyi said firmly, obviously very confident in her ability. Then it can only be said that your prophecy is not detailed, there must be something missing. Moreover, just based on these few scenes, you can't say that this is the end of the world, right? A light flashed in Tang Zheng's mind. She said with certainty that he was the savior, so it must be that the world was facing a disaster. But with the demon race's arrival, this world might not be a disaster, but there would be many people dying, the old order would collapse, and a new order would be established. I dare to say that this is the end of the world. Of course there is a basis. The whole world is covered in black clouds, the waves are monstrous and the earth is split open. It is a scene of death, as if in the next second the world will collapse. Yan Qingyi said with lingering fear. Even if she recalled that scene, she still had lingering fear, and a trace of cold air rose from the bottom of her heart. Then it is similar to the scene in the movies, it really is the end of the world. Tang Zheng closed his eyes, imagining that scene, making it difficult to breathe and suffocate. Since you said that the world is about to be destroyed, then what is the use of the demon race besieging me? Tang Zheng asked puzzledly. This? Yan Qingyi was speechless. In the end she blankly shook her head. I also don't know. Since you said that I am the savior, then in the end, did I succeed in saving the world? Of course. The clouds dispersed, the waves calmed down, the earth also stopped shaking, and the world was once again filled with vitality. Yan Qingyi recalled that scene, feeling as if she had survived a disaster, and the corners of her mouth involuntarily rose into a smile. Tang Jing became more and more confused. He could not imagine what was going on. Where did he have the ability to save the world? Why did the world become like the end of the world? Tang Jing sighed, unwillingly asking. Yan Qingyi shook her head in shame. I don't know. But thinking about it, it should be caused by the demon race. Tang Jing gave a non-committal laugh, saying, Your prophecy is too vague. There are many places without details. The key is that it does not make sense. Actually, I did not intend to tell you this at the beginning. I did not want to disrupt your train of thought and steps. But recently my prophecy of the end of the world has become more and more detailed. Those few scenes have only become clear recently, and just now I heard you mention the return of the demon race, so I decided to tell you as soon as possible, hoping that it will be of some help to you, so that you will not take the wrong path. Yan Qingyi said. The survival of humanity and even the survival of the world depends on you alone. Although you do not understand the deeper meaning of this right now, and even think that there are many places that are too contradictory, I firmly believe that this is just because the time is not right. Once the time is right, everything will follow naturally, and you will not have any more doubts. Seeing her solemn vow, Tang Jing did not know whether to be happy that he was the savior, or cry that his life was so bitter, to actually be the savior. It was not that easy to be the savior. This matter is too far away, we should focus on the present. Tang Jing shook his head, temporarily dispelling these messy thoughts. You are the savior, you make the decisions. Yan Qingyi spread out her hands. You have done so much for humanity. Our Yin family will definitely not stay out of this matter. If you have any orders, we will definitely not refuse. Chapter 787. Since the Yin family was so confident, Tang Jing did not hold back and directly said, All of you keep a close eye on the Song family. Once Song Jianan or Song Yu appear, inform me and even try your best to stall them and wait for me to deal with them. Since the Song family had framed him, he would not be courteous and directly use the power of the Yin family to find them, even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. If he could follow the vine and find clues about the Sword Pavilion or the Azure Dragon Palace, then he would have profited. Yen Padian did not hesitate at all, and immediately nodded in agreement. Tang Jing, don't worry, the Song family has been coveting the Yin family for a long time. If I don't take care of him, I won't be able to sit still. Although the Yin family is weak, I still want to do my best. I wonder if there's anything we can do to help with the matter of the demon clan? This? Tang Jing had originally only come to remind the other party about the return of the demon clan. Since the other party had taken the initiative to volunteer, he could not directly reject them and destroy their enthusiasm. Although the officials are confident in dealing with the demon clan is not an ordinary person after all. Send people to Dianan, that is the lair of the 100 Transformation Star Lord. If the demon clan returns, they will definitely go there. I want to see if there are any fish that escaped the net. Tang Jing muttered to himself. Don't worry, we will immediately send people to Dianan. We will not let go of any clues. Yu Bian, we don't have to fight him head-on. There are many experts in the demon clan, so fighting him head-on is not the best strategy. Tang Jing warned. He did not wish for anything to happen to the people of the Yen family because of him. Regarding this relationship, the members of the Yen family were all moved. This was a true and righteous person. In addition, I would like to discuss more with Miss Yen about the prophecy technique. Tang Jing was extremely curious about the prophecy technique and wanted to ask for advice. Shall we return to my Taoist temple? How could Tang Jing refuse Yan Qingyi's warm invitation? After bidding farewell to the rest of the Yen family, Tang Jing and Yan Qingyi returned to the Taoist temple. This Taoist temple was specially built for Yan Qingyi. It was very small, but it was built with great care. She was the only one in the temple. Although she had seen through the world of mortals, she was different from ordinary Taoist priests. She cultivated alone, accompanied by the green lamp and the ancient book. She did not interact with other Taoists. Therefore, the Tao she cultivated was completely different from other Taoists. Green tea, spring water, green lanterns, Taoist temple, everything exuded an otherworldly charm. Immersed in it, Tang Jing's heart felt exceptionally tranquil, as if he had forgotten the troubles of the world. He slowly closed his eyes as if his soul was about to leave his body. Yan Qingyi quietly looked at him. Although she was not a cultivator or a martial artist, her perception was not weak. She could clearly feel the change in Tang Jing's aura. Seeing Tang Jing open his eyes again, Yan Qingyi praised, "You are fated with the Tao." Tang Jing smiled and said, "What is the Tao?" "The Tao is in your heart. Once you understand it, you will naturally know," Yan Qingyi said. Tang Jing shook his head. He did not want to discuss this vague topic with her. He went straight to the point and asked, "Why do you know the prophecy technique?" "Because this is my Tao. Once I understand it, I will naturally know the prophecy technique," Yan Qingyi calmly said. Tang Jing frowned. These words were too mysterious. Once you understand the Tao in your heart, you will know the prophecy technique. No matter what, he could not understand the reason behind it. The key was that she was not a martial artist or a cultivator. Her body did not have inner strength or qi. It did not make sense. Could it be that once I understand the Tao in my heart, I will also know the prophecy technique? Tang Jing asked. Yan Qingyi shook her head. That is not true. There are thousands and thousands of Taoists in the world. After understanding the Tao, they will all be different. Perhaps you will not know anything. Perhaps you will have a mysterious ability. You cannot generalize. Tang Jing's eyes lit up. This was a theory that he had never heard before. Even Tian Chanzi had never mentioned it before. This was a completely new field. Could it be that not cultivating and just blindly comprehending the Tao would allow one to have supernatural powers? But with a living example in front of him, he had no choice but to believe it. Then how can one comprehend the Tao? Tang Jing asked again. Yan Qingyi closed her eyes and spread out her hands. She faintly said, "If you are sincere, you will naturally be able to comprehend the Tao." Tang Jing speechlessly rolled his eyes. This was much more mysterious than cultivating. There was not a single ancient book or book to learn from. Then how do you comprehend the Tao? Familiarizing myself with the 3,000 ancient books of the way and sincerely comprehending the Tao. Familiarizing yourself with the ancient books? Tang Jing frowned. There are countless Taoist temples and Taoist priests in the world. Why do they not comprehend the Tao? Their hearts are not sincere. Yan Qingyi opened her eyes and lightly said. Tang Jing did not know whether to laugh or cry. There was no way to continue this conversation. There was nothing substantial. It was all illusory Tao. He could not help but remember the heavenly Tao that the Empyrean fairy had once mentioned. Qin Shi Huang had killed too many people and was punished by the heavenly Tao. As a result, he was unable to obtain immortality. Then what exactly was the heavenly Tao? What is the heavenly Tao? Tang Jing directly asked. Heavenly Tao? Yan Qingyi's expression became particularly solemn. The heavenly Tao is the ultimate Tao. I cannot comprehend it, so I do not know. Ultimate Tao. Tang Jing sucked in a breath of cold air. Then can anyone comprehend the heavenly Tao? Yan Qingyi thought for a moment and nodded. Naturally. Then what kind of abilities will one obtain after comprehending the heavenly Tao? Tang Jing asked curiously. I do not know. Yan Qingyi shook her head. Tang Jing pursed his lips. She did not know anything. There was no way he could continue this discussion. He wanted to know more practical things. Then can you predict more information about the end of the world? Yan Qingyi regretfully said, that is all for now. Alright, since there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. If there is any further information about the end of the world, I hope you can tell me. Of course. Goodbye. Tang Jing stood up and extended his hand. Yan Qingyi grasped his hand. Just as she was about to say goodbye, her eyes suddenly lit up and her expression greatly changed. Tang Jing saw that she was not letting go of his hand and her expression was strange. He could not help but ask, what's wrong? Yan Qingyi did not answer. It was as if she was stunned. What's going on? Tang Jing was confused. Isn't it just a handshake? Why isn't she letting go? Wait, something mysterious seems to be happening to her body? Just as he was at a loss, Yan Qingyi finally let go of his hand. She closed her eyes and softly fell to the ground. Be careful. Tang Jing shouted and hurriedly hugged her waist. Under the large robe, her waist was extremely slender and elastic. Yan Qingyi fell into his arms. Wake up, what's wrong? Tang Jing called out in concern. Yan Qingyi's eyelids twitched. She finally opened her eyes with difficulty and saw Tang Jing's anxious face. His face was right in front of hers, and the two of them were in a very intimate position. She was lying in Tang Jing's arms while Tang Jing was hugging her waist. No matter how one looked at it, they looked like an intimate couple. I am fine. Yan Qingyi weakly said. Don't move. I'll take you to the bed and lie down for a while. Tang Jing had already seen that behind the living room was a bedroom. Without any explanation, he picked her up and walked straight to the bedroom. When he walked in, he could not help but be surprised. The bedroom was not big and was very simple. There was only a hard wooden bed and a cabinet. The walls were bare without any decorations. It was extremely simple. This was thousands of miles away from an ordinary woman's room. It was extremely inconsistent with her identity as the young miss of the Yen family. Yan Qingyi was very weak. Although she felt that it was not appropriate for him to carry her like this, she could not struggle and refuse. Tang Jing gently placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He said, "Don't talk. Rest for a while." Yan Qingyi was helpless and could only close her eyes. Tang Jing sat by the bed and curiously looked at her. Her face without any makeup was pale and weak. He really could not understand why she suddenly fainted. Could it be? He immediately recalled the scene just now. She had become like this after holding his hand. Could it be because she held his hand? Tang Jing was dumbfounded. He raised his hand and looked at it. There was nothing strange. When did his hand have this kind of magic? It could even cause people to faint? No, he had held hands with many people. He had even had intimate contact with Fang Shishir and the others. There was absolutely no such situation. But if it was not a handshake, then what caused it? He could not figure it out. He could only wait for her to rest to find out the answer. He stared at her without blinking. Unknowingly, he was attracted by her appearance. What happened to her body that made her so different from ordinary women? Coarse hemp clothes, a temple, a woman alone. With all these companions, how could she endure such loneliness? Tang Jing knew that he was a person who could endure loneliness, but he could not imagine what kind of life this was. If it were him, he would have collapsed long ago. In addition, her so-called Tao was also very mysterious, causing Tang Jing to be enlightened as if he had opened a door to a new world. It was just that behind the door was a thick fog, so he could not see clearly what kind of scenery it was. Outside the window it was completely dark. In the night, the sound of frogs and insects could be heard, making the temple even more peaceful. As if his heart had sensed something, he simply began to circulate his energy and cultivate. During the day he had absorbed Song Jinan's energy and directly advanced to the gold level 3rd grade. The vast amount of energy was converted into true qi and stored in his body. He silently experienced the mysteries of the gold core 3rd grade, consolidating his cultivation. He gradually became one with the quiet environment. Unknowingly, he was completely immersed in the wonderful state of cultivation. After an unknown amount of time, Tang Jing opened his eyes. His cultivation had been completely consolidated and his true qi was much purer. But a face was close at hand looking at him. Seeing him open his eyes, she quickly retreated. She hid her embarrassment and lightly said, "You're awake." Looking at Yan Qingyi, Tang Jing was overjoyed and said, "You're also awake? How do you feel now?" "I'm much better. Thank you for just now," Yan Qingyi said. "It's nothing. What happened to you just now? Are you not feeling well?" Tang Jing asked with concern. Chapter 788. Yan Qingyi's expression was complicated as she stared at Tang Jing, as if she wanted to see through every pore on his face. "Previously, when I held your hand, an image suddenly appeared in front of my eyes." Tang Jing's heart moved as he said in surprise, "You mean the prophecy technique worked again?" Yan Qingyi nodded. "It seems that when I held your hand, the prophecy technique worked and I saw a new image." "What image?" Tang Jing asked curiously. "Do you still remember the stone stairs at the top of the mountain?" "Of course I remember. That stone stairs seemed to lead to the sky and there seemed to be something at the end of the stairs. It was very blurry and I couldn't see clearly, but the aura was very frightening. Even if I only saw an image, I still felt a kind of fear from the depths of my soul." Yan Qingyi said worriedly. "There was something at the end of the stairs and it made her so afraid?" Tang Jing was incredulous as his eyes widened. The other end of the stairs was the sky beyond heaven. Didn't he build the stairs to guide the righteous cultivators back? What was so scary about the righteous cultivators? Try to recall again and see if you can see clearly what is at the end of the stairs. Tang Jing continued to ask. Yan Qingyi was regretful as she shook her head. "I already tried, but I couldn't see clearly. It was very blurry, but the aura was very frightening." Could it be that it was some powerful cultivator in the sky beyond heaven that gave her this illusion? Tang Jing muttered to himself. "Why don't we shake hands again and see if you can see more clearly?" Tang Jing suggested. Yan Qingyi was restless and said, "I can try." Tang Jing thought of her weak appearance and hurriedly asked, Do you always have such a strong reaction when you use the prophecy technique? Yes, using the prophecy technique consumes a lot of energy. After it ends, one will be exhausted and will almost faint. But I will be fine after resting for a while. Then it's been hard on you. The two of them held hands again. Yan Qingyi's hand was slender, small, and a little cold. It was completely wrapped up by Tang Zheng's warm big palm. The two pairs of eyes stared at each other, waiting for the moment when the prophecy would take effect. As time passed, the air seemed to have frozen. Everything was silent, and Yan Qingyi did not react at all. How is it? Tang Zheng asked curiously. Yan Qingyi shook her head sadly. It didn't work. Why? Didn't it work just now? Tang Zheng was also very disappointed. I don't know either. The prophecy technique is triggered by chance and is not completely under my control. However, in the past, the prophecy technique was only activated when I was meditating alone. It has never been activated in front of others, let alone in contact with others. In other words, what happened just now was an accident, or rather, it had something to do with Tang Zheng. However, even after exhausting a lot of brain cells, the two of them still couldn't figure out the reason. Both of them felt that it was a pity. If they could see a few more scenes, perhaps the situation of the apocalypse and the end of the stairway to heaven would be clearer. The two of them unconsciously held hands. When Tang Zheng noticed, his heart couldn't help but tremble. It was really impolite to hold a woman's hand like this, especially when the other party was a Taoist nun. He pretended to be calm and let go of her hand without a trace. It's late, then I'll take my leave first. Do you know the situation of the Tree of Life recently? Yan Qingyi suddenly asked. I don't know why. When I was under the Tree of Life before, the prophecy technique played a greater role, so I want to go to the Tree of Life again to see if I can find anything new. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. Is that so? Yes, but the Tree of Life is protected by your array, so I can't get close. That's not a big problem. In order to prevent the dragon group from researching the Tree of Life, Tang Zheng had used the energy of the Heaven-Earth Mystic Stone and the Universal 8 Desolation Array to protect it. I'll tell you a way to safely pass through the Universal 8 Desolation Array and you'll be able to reach the Tree of Life. I hope your prophecy technique can make a new discovery. Yan Qingyi's eyes lit up. That's great. Tang Zheng told her the trick of the Universal 8 Desolation Array and she committed it to memory. In the end, Tang Zheng said goodbye and left. When he returned home, he found that Fang Shishir was still waiting for him in the living room. Seeing him come back, she welcomed him with a smile and asked like a little wife, "You're back so late, have you eaten?" Tang Zheng held her hand with a smile and said, "I have." "It's so late, why aren't you resting? Are they all asleep?" They all went back to their rooms to rest. "Since I can't sleep, I might as well wait for you to come back," Fang Shishir said with a gentle face. Tang Zheng's heart warmed. This feeling was like a husband who had worked hard outside for a day and came home to see his beautiful wife. He couldn't help but kiss her forehead. Fang Shishir's face turned red and she quickly dodged. "Be careful not to let others see." "No one will see." Fang Shishir glared at him and said, "Sit down, I have something to talk to you about." The two sat down on the sofa and Tang Zheng held her waist. She struggled a few times but couldn't break free, so she fulfilled his wish. "Behave, don't touch me," Fang Shishir said in a low voice as she slapped his naughty hands. "Don't you have something to do?" "Of course I have something to do. I came back like this and didn't have time to tell Mom and Dad. If they find out, they will be very sad," Fang Shishir said with a sad expression. Studying abroad was a dream for the former Fang Shishir since she was young. Similarly, it was also her parents' dream. But now, in less than a year, she was forced to come back. How to explain this to her parents was a headache for her. Tang Zheng was so busy that he forgot about this matter. He said, "Just say that you don't like living abroad and want to come back." "But where will I go if I come back? Don't tell me I have to repeat my studies and take the college entrance exam?" Fang Shishir said with disappointment. Tang Zheng rejected without hesitation. "Of course not. Then where will I go to school? Don't tell me I don't have to go to school? If I don't go to school, what can I do?" Her mind was not as open as Tang Zheng's. She still prioritized her studies. Even if she was a cultivator, she could not immediately give up her identity as a student. Tang Zheng scratched his head. This was indeed a problem. He thought for a while and said, "I have an idea. Why don't you come with me to Yenqing University?" "Is this okay?" "If I say it's okay, then it's okay." Tang Zheng knew so many important people and even met the chief. If he couldn't do this, then he would be doing too poorly. Seeing him make a solemn vow, Fang Shishir's worry turned into joy. She said, "That's great." As she said this, she could not help but kiss Tang Zheng's face. Then, like a thief, she looked around as if she was afraid that other people would see her. Seeing this, Tang Zheng could not help but laugh mischievously. "Why are you acting so sneakily when it's an open and above-board matter, like a thief?" Fang Shishir rolled her eyes at him and rebuked him. "If other beauties see you, do you think you'll have a good time? I'm thinking for you. A dog biting Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate good intentions." Tang Zheng was speechless and quickly nodded. "My Shishir is the best. Come, give me another kiss." "No, rogue." Fang Shishir quickly dodged, but how could she avoid Tang Zheng's evil claws? She was fiercely kissed again. Moreover, it was a French kiss. Fang Shishir's cheeks were bright red. "Hurry up and do your business. Don't be a rogue or I'll ignore you." Fang Shishir fiercely twisted Tang Zheng's waist and urged him. "Okay, I'll make a call right away." Tang Zheng surrendered. If he wanted to enter Yenqing University, he could only go through the official channels. He could only ask Su Yingtian for help. After Su Yingtian received the call and heard the news, he readily agreed. For ordinary people, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. For people with high positions like them, it was only a matter of a word. "Tang Zheng, take advantage of the free time in these 2 days to finish everything. I estimate that we'll be leaving in 2 days." Su Yingtian urged. "There's news so soon? Anyway, it's almost done. Now that we're gathering the strength of the entire country, of course the efficiency is high." "Are we going to the East Sea to intercept them?" "Yes." "Okay, then I'll wait for your news." Tang Zheng's face could not help but become serious. This time he was not confident in confronting the demons. He must make his strength reach the absolute peak. Seeing Tang Zheng's dignified expression, Fang Shishir worriedly asked, "What's wrong?" "In 2 days I will leave for the east. Maybe your master Tian Chanzi is there. The demons may have returned. I will cooperate with the government to stop them." "That's too dangerous." Fang Shishir's heart trembled and said. Tang Zheng stroked her hair and smiled confidently. "Your boyfriend is so powerful. How can there be danger? Don't worry. I'll go with you." "No, you can't. You stay in Yenjing. If anything happens, stay by Fu Yao's side. She will protect all of you." Tang Zheng warned without giving him any chance to explain. "Good girl, I won't be gone for long. I'll get back to you soon." Fang Shishir's eyes could not help but redden. "You're risking your life outside. How can I not worry? But I can't help you. I'm so useless." "Silly girl, isn't a man's responsibility to protect the woman he loves? If I'm here and you have to fight, then I'll be a failure. Promise me you'll come back." "Of course. Pinky promise." Fang Shishir said with reddened eyes. "It's late. Let's go to sleep." After Pinky promise, Fang Shishir suddenly said shyly. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment before he reacted and cheered in a low voice. "Oh good. My Shishir is so understanding. I'm being merciful because you're leaving. Otherwise I won't let you off so easily. Let me tell you, be quiet later. Don't let them hear." Chapter 789. Lying on the bed was a graceful figure. When she heard the sound of the door opening, she immediately opened her eyes and sat up. When she saw Tang Zheng carrying Fang Shishir, her eyes flashed with embarrassment as she stood there in a daze. Tang Zheng seemed to have been immobilized as he stared dumbfoundedly at the person on the bed. Marshall. Why was she lying on his bed? Of course she could lie down, but the key was in front of Fang Shishir this time. Boom! Tang Zheng felt as if his mind had exploded. He was at a loss for what to do. Fang Shishir was stunned for a few seconds as she continued to lie in Tang Zheng's embrace, staring straight at Marshall. The two women's eyes were burning as they stared at each other, as if the flames of war could ignite at any moment. "Marshall, you?" Tang Zheng finally broke, but before he could finish, Marshall had already gotten off the bed in a panic and awkwardly said, "I have something to talk to you about. I accidentally fell asleep. I'll go back to my room first." After she finished speaking, she rushed out of the room without looking back. "Put me down." Fang Shishir fiercely pinched Tang Zheng and said. "I don't know what's going on either." Tang Zheng said innocently. "Playboy." Fang Shishir fiercely glared at him and angrily returned to her room, leaving Tang Zheng to stare at her helplessly. F***ck, what the hell is this? I knew that living together would cause problems. It's only been 2 days. Tang Zheng scratched his head and angrily muttered. A romance that was about to begin ended because of this small interlude. Tang Zheng could not sleep, but there was nothing he could do. The next day, Fang Shishir and Marshall sat together as if nothing had happened. Outsiders could not see any clues, causing Tang Zheng to sigh at how good this woman was at acting. However, it was fortunate that the two of them did not fight. Tang Zheng secretly rejoiced. After breakfast, he brought Fang Shishir to Yenqing University. Su Yingtian had already arranged everything and Fang Shishir successfully entered the university. She chose her original major and continued to focus on her studies. The simple and boring days continued for 2 days before Su Yingtian's call came. They were going out to sea. A military vehicle stopped in front of Tang Zheng. A small soldier hurriedly ran down and saluted. Chief Su sent me to pick you up. Chief. Tang Zheng stared blankly for a moment before laughing involuntarily. He did not correct him and walked into the car. The little soldier respectfully closed the car door and was about to drive off when a person rushed over like the wind. He opened the car door and sat beside Tang Zheng. The little soldier was shocked and shouted, "Who is it?" Just as he was about to take action, Tang Zheng hurriedly stopped him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Marshall beside him and said, "Didn't I tell you to stay at home? Wherever you go, I'll go too." Wu Dang still refused to budge. There will be danger. Just now, he had spent a lot of effort to persuade the women to stay at home. He didn't expect that the moment he left, Marshall would catch up to him. Marshall stared straight at him and said, "It's precisely because there's danger that I have to follow you." This. Tang Zheng felt warmth in his heart, but he also felt helpless. But it's too dangerous. I'm not afraid of danger. Since I was young, I existed to deal with danger. Marshall said without retreating an inch. Their eyes met, and Tang Zheng saw an incomparable determination in her eyes. It was obvious that there was no way to shake her decision. He couldn't help but say helplessly, "Why are you so stubborn?" Wu raised her snow-white neck and said, "I'm just stubborn. All right, I'm afraid of you, but I have to make it clear in advance. When the time comes, you can't be stubborn and act according to the circumstances. Do you understand?" Tang Zheng warned. Wu Dang's tense face finally revealed a trace of a smile as he said, "Understood." The two of them had already partnered up many times and could be considered to have a tacit understanding. Furthermore, Marshall's cultivation was not low, so Tang Zheng had changed to fulfill his wish. "Little comrade, hurry up and drive." Tang Zheng was deeply afraid that the others would chase after him. It wouldn't be good to bring an army of women with him. The military vehicle whistled away and finally drove into a heavily guarded military airport in the suburbs. Many fully armed soldiers were entering a huge military transport plane. The military vehicle stopped at the entrance of the cabin, and Su Yingtian quickly walked over to welcome him. "You're finally here. Hurry up and get on the plane. We're about to take off." Tang Zheng nodded and boarded the plane with Marshall. The military transport plane was not as comfortable as the civil airliner. On a few rows of crude chairs sat imposing soldiers. These people are not weak. They are the elites of the army. Tang Zheng muttered to himself. The two of them were dressed casually, especially since Marshall was a woman. They did not fit in with the surrounding environment and attracted the attention of many people. However, the soldiers were strictly disciplined and no one came to ask about it. However, Tang Zheng saw an acquaintance, Kai Guibin. When Kai Guibin left the dragon group, Tang Zheng recommended him to Su Yingtian. He never thought that they would meet again today. Kai Guibin was very enthusiastic. He hurriedly went up to Tang Zheng and shook hands with him. He said familiarly, "Tang Zheng, a scholar has been away for 3 days. Now, I don't dare to recognize you anymore. You're being too serious. Back then, you were the leader of my military training. For the time being, we're old acquaintances. Don't say such polite words." Tang Zheng said enthusiastically. Kai Guibin was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Tang Zheng had soared too quickly. Whether it was strength or status, he had far surpassed Kai Guibin. This was a height that many people would never be able to reach in their lifetime, so he naturally could not help but sigh with emotion. The cabin door slowly rose. Su Yingtian came to Tang Zheng's side and sat down. He nodded at Wu and said to Tang Zheng, "This mission is very serious. When the time comes, you will have to bear with it a little more." "Well said." Everyone worked together. Tang Zheng said indifferently. Su Yingtian squeezed out a smile and said, "What do you think of these soldiers?" "The elites of the army. These are the elites that the National Security Bureau has nurtured for many years. This time, in order to fight against the demon race, I have brought out all of my trump cards. Su Tian said with some desolation. This time the National Security Bureau had bet a lot. If they failed, it would not be much different from a complete wipeout. Tang Jing's expression was cold as he said, "You're not leaving any way out? The rise and fall of the country is everyone's responsibility. At this time I don't dare to hide anything. Many of these people are pre-celestial martial artists. They are prepared to give the demon race a fatal blow." Su Tian said firmly. "What about the dragon group? Didn't they also send them to participate in the battle? They took off from another airport. Both sides will meet at sea." "Will the dragon group send elites?" Tang Jing asked worriedly. Su Tian coldly snorted and said, "The leader has given a death order. Xing Feng does not have the guts to deceive his superiors. He should send elites. His super soldiers are not any weaker than your subordinates." Su Tian sighed inwardly and said, "Who said it wasn't? Who would have thought that he would create a super soldier program and even succeed? Now only his dragon group has super soldiers. It is simply mass-produced experts. It is too damn heaven-defying." Tang Jing bitterly smiled. "It is indeed heaven-defying. Although this Xing Feng's heart is not right, he still has some ability." Today Tang Jing's cultivation was high, but he also walked step by step. He was not like the super soldiers who rose from an ordinary soldier to a pre-celestial martial artist. However, I heard that the super soldiers also have side effects. Many people did not survive and many people died. But they were all suppressed by Xing Feng. "Humph, he is deranged and does not care about human life." Tang Jing snorted. "I'm not that cold-hearted. So, even if he gave me the super soldier drug, I would not inject it into my subordinates." Tang Jing solemnly said, "They are lucky to have an officer like you." The military aircraft rose into the sky and landed an hour later at an airport near the sea. Then, everyone boarded several helicopters and flew towards the sea with the roar of the propellers. Below their feet was the boundless sea, and they could no longer see the shadow of land. Suddenly, a huge object appeared in the sea ahead. Tang Jing could not help but exclaim, "Aircraft carrier." Su Tian laughed heartily and said, "Ha, you have always been indifferent. I have never seen you so surprised before." Tang Jing smiled and pointed at the aircraft carrier below. "I have only seen videos and photos on TV and the internet. Now that I see it with my own eyes, I can't help but feel excited." Tang Jing also had the same feelings as many people of his age. He had always paid close attention to the only aircraft carrier in the country. It could be said that the appearance of the aircraft carrier had raised the pride of the people. "You are still a hot-blooded youth," Su Tian joked. Tang Jing rolled his eyes at him and said, "I've always been one, all right." "Aha, then this time it will be as you wish. You will feast your eyes." "You are saying that we are going to board the aircraft carrier?" "Of course." The moment he finished speaking, the helicopter had already landed on the aircraft carrier. A moment later Tang Jing jumped down from the helicopter. When he stepped on the deck of the aircraft carrier, his heart could not help but beat fiercely. He took a deep breath. Apart from the smell of the sea, there was also the smell of iron and blood of the military. The deck was very busy. All kinds of military aircraft took off and landed in an orderly manner. There were also many soldiers who came and went in an endless stream. It was indeed a moving fortress on the sea. There was no doubt about its combat strength. It was no wonder that all the major countries were developing their own aircraft carriers. "Don't just admire it. Let's go." Su Tian patted Tang Jing's shoulder. The few of them went to a meeting room together. The meeting room was already full. Most of them were in military uniforms. Their cheeks were chiseled like knives and axes, and they were extraordinarily mighty. However, Tang Jing saw some old acquaintances among them, Xing Feng and his subordinates. These people were dressed in casual clothes and had an arrogant air about them, which was completely different from the others' auras. However, there was no doubt that many of them were stronger than the other soldiers. There was no doubt about that. Moreover, Tang Jing also saw the remaining 3 of the 4 heavenly kings. Chapter 790. Tang Jing and the others walked to the table and sat down. The one sitting at the head was an officer in his 50s. He was serious and had the aura of an iron-blooded soldier. Su Tian had already introduced this person to Tang Jing. He was the highest commander of this aircraft carrier, General Luo Cheng. General Luo looked at everyone and said, "Since everyone is here, then let's start the meeting. The enemy is about to enter our territorial waters, and now is the best time to ambush them. Our fleet is heading towards our target. The enemy is only on one ship, and this ship is not a civilian ship but a modified warship. Modified warship? Everyone's attention was attracted. Yes, this is a modified warship of the island nation, so we can't rule out that the enemy has sufficient firepower. This time we can't let our guard down. General Luo was experienced and said with certainty. Su Yingtian nodded and said, General Luo, this is your ship. You make the decisions and we are just following your lead. General Luo looked at Su Yingtian approvingly. This was the sea and he had the most experience in naval battles. If an amateur were to command an expert, then there would be a huge mess. Xing Feng snorted coldly and argued. We are under orders from our leader, and how can we rely on others to decide our strategy? Furthermore, the enemy we are facing this time is not ordinary, and conventional combat experience is not reliable. As soon as these words were said, the other soldiers glared at him. General Luo had absolute authority on the aircraft carrier, and Xing Feng dared to challenge his authority and angered everyone. Xing Feng glanced at everyone and said jokingly, Don't agree with my point of view? Even if you don't agree, then take it back. This time the Dragon Group is in charge, not the Navy. Nonsense, when we are at sea, the Navy is the one making the decisions. A soldier retorted. Xing Feng said with disdain, The Navy is only scaring the ordinary soldiers. Our Dragon Group is the most elite force. This is the battle plan that we came up with, and the others just have to follow. Xing Feng used to be in the army, so he didn't belong to the same system as the Navy, and now his identity is different, so his arrogant nature is exposed. General Luo said with a gloomy face, Group Leader Xing, what is your so-called Dragon Group's battle plan? Your bombers will go and bombard them first. Then the ships will cover them with their firepower. Finally, we will appear and completely clean up the battlefield and eliminate the remnants. Xing Feng said arrogantly. As soon as this was said, everyone had a different look on their face. They said that the Dragon Group would take the lead, but in the end, it was still the Marine that played the role. The Dragon Group was just doing the finishing work to avoid the least loss and damage. Why should we be the vanguard? The enemy's situation is unknown. Didn't you boast that the Dragon Group is very powerful? Why don't you charge and break the enemy lines first? An officer retorted unhappily. Xing Feng laughed, Good steel should be used on the blade. Our Dragon Group is the best of the best. Of course, we have to be responsible for the most crucial part. As for the Navy, you can only do the early work. In the follow-up battle, your strength is not enough to fill the gap between the enemy's teeth. Although that was the case, Xing Feng's secret plan was not simple. He didn't understand the strength of the demon race, so he wanted to use the Navy to test the bottom line first. If the enemy was too strong, the Navy would also consume a part of the enemy's strength. If the Dragon Group rushed up, their chances of winning would be much higher. General Luo was experienced and knowledgeable. How could he not see through the others' little thoughts? He said calmly, Didn't I always hear that the Dragon Group is very strong? You have cultivated a group of super soldiers, and you have the secret weapon of the mech. Can't you be the vanguard? General Luo didn't want his subordinates to be cannon fodder and help others. Xing Feng said, An order is an order. Where is there so much room for negotiation? Could it be that General Luo wants to disobey the order and not carry out this mission? Xing Feng, I'm not scared. You're still too inexperienced to use these words to scare me. Don't think that just because you're an imperial envoy, you can order around and do whatever you want in my territory. General Luo criticized without any trace of politeness. If it was before, Xing Feng wouldn't have the qualifications and confidence to be so rampant in front of General Luo. Now that a petty person like General Luo had achieved success, he looked down on Xing Feng. Xing Feng's face flushed red. Then this mission can't continue. I will report it to the leader as it is. This responsibility is not something that some people can bear. The faces of the Navy officers immediately turned ugly. They looked like they wanted to throw Xing Feng out. Xing Feng, don't think that I'm the best in the world just because you're an imperial sword. This time your Dragon Group isn't the only one in charge. My National Security Bureau hasn't said anything yet. Su Yingtian finally couldn't sit still and flipped out. Xing Feng disdainfully said, Su Yingtian, be careful not to bite your tongue when you talk big. Do you think I don't know what your National Security Bureau is capable of? You'll soon be eliminated by history. You won't be able to jump around for more than a few days. Calm down a bit right now, or else you'll be the ones to suffer in the end. Xing Feng's thinking was very simple. He had to take advantage of this mission to show off enough in front of the leader to completely stabilize his position and leave Su Yingtian far behind. Although this matter was brought up by Su Yingtian in the beginning, Xing Feng was the best at picking up peaches halfway. How could he let Su Yingtian take another step forward through this mission? Actually, in terms of overall strength, the Dragon Group had already faintly surpassed the National Security Bureau. The National Security Bureau had the advantage of having many branches and leaves, a solid foundation and strong overall strength. The Dragon Group had the advantage of being innovative and creating many new things such as super soldiers and mecha. This kind of rapid growth and strength was something that the National Security Bureau couldn't compare to. Thus, Xing Feng could be considered a talent, but his heart wasn't in the right place. The more things he had in his hands, the more dangerous it would be. How could Su Yingtian be frightened by Xing Feng? He suddenly slammed the table and roared, "Xing Feng, you're the one who should calm down. What kind of time is this? This is a crucial moment for the survival of the country and you're still scheming. Don't think that everyone is a fool and doesn't know your sinister intentions." Su Yingtian didn't give Xing Feng any face and tore apart Xing Feng's disguise with a single sentence. The leader of the military was radiant with joy as he sent grateful gazes towards Su Yingtian. General Luo also nodded towards Su Yingtian in gratification. The two of them were old acquaintances and General Luo knew Su Yingtian's character. Seeing that the latter had helped him out of the situation, he was extremely happy. Xing Feng was furious. "Su Yingtian, don't be an alarmist and don't frame me. I'm wholeheartedly doing this for the sake of the country. Furthermore, this plan is the best plan." "Bullshit best plan. You only want to use others as cannon fodder. What kind of best plan is this? Don't the super soldiers of the Dragon Group have the ability to attack from the air? Furthermore, mechas aren't any worse than airplanes. I heard that your mechas have already been installed with flight systems and can already fly in the air. Can't you also carry out aerial attacks?" Su Yingtian retorted. Xing Feng was inwardly furious. Su Yingtian actually knew so much about the Dragon Group. It seemed that his purge back then wasn't thorough enough. The Dragon Group still had the National Security Bureau's spies. If my people suffer any losses, then who will take over the battle later? Is there anyone who can fight against the Demon Clan with their individual strength? I'll do it. I'll do it. Su Yingtian and Tang Jing said at the same time. Then the two looked at each other and smiled in tacit understanding. Seeing Tang Jing speak, many people's attention was drawn over, especially General Luo. Previously, Su Yingtian wasn't in a hurry to introduce Tang Jing's identity. Therefore, the military only thought that he was a member of the National Security Bureau and didn't think much of it. Tang Jing ignored everyone's gazes and stared straight at Xing Feng. "Xing Feng, if your Dragon Group wants to stay, then you have to listen to everyone's arrangements. You want to be the boss? If you're still too inexperienced. General Luo has the most experience here. I feel that following his plan is the most feasible." Although Tang Jing didn't know General Luo's plan, he had a good impression of him. To be able to become the highest commander of Wuxia's first aircraft carrier strike group, not only did he have connections but more importantly he had strength. Therefore Tang Jing admired General Luo from the bottom of his heart. Hearing this, the military nodded and smiled kindly at Tang Jing. Su Yingtian also nodded in agreement. General Luo is a pillar of the country. He's a rare talent in our country. I support this operation to be led by him. Su Yingtian took the initiative to give up power, which won many people's applause. He wasn't a person who monopolized power. His biggest hope was that this operation would be a complete success, not a struggle for power. In the vast sea, in terms of actual combat experience, of course no one could surpass General Luo. Therefore he also preferred to let General Luo lead. Hearing Su Yingtian's words, Xing Feng became angrier and said, "How is this the same as a normal naval battle? It's different, but you still don't have the qualifications to lead." Tang Jing said bluntly. "Tang Jing, what's wrong with me? Come bite me? Haha, actually I'm looking forward to you biting me now. That way I can make you completely speechless. You should know that I really dare to do that." Tang Jing sneered and said jokingly. Many officers sucked in a breath of cold air. They were all guessing who this young man was, daring to go head-to-head with Xing Feng. However, this was really courageous. It was really King cool. Therefore, everyone's good impression of Tang Jing was through the roof, and they all looked at him eagerly. A strange look flashed through General Luo's eyes. He stared at Tang Jing and said, "You're Tang Jing?" The other officers had been at sea for many years and didn't know of Tang Jing's great name, but General Luo knew a little and couldn't help but be surprised. The other party was too young. It was hard to believe that the main character of those rumors was him. Tang Jing nodded to General Luo and said, General Luo, I'm Tang Zheng. Chapter 791. The addition of Tang Zheng caused the situation to take a turn for the worse. The three heavenly kings of the dragon group were ready to make a move but were stopped by Xing Feng's gaze. Xing Feng was very clear about Tang Zheng's temper. He was someone who dared to directly make a move. In the end, if there was internal strife before the battle even started, Tang Zheng was outside of the system so he could just leave. But Xing Feng would inevitably be criticized by the chief and the gains would not make up for the losses. General Luo, please give the order. Tang Zheng nodded towards General Luo and said. General Luo glanced at Xing Feng and saw that he did not object. He couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Everything had its weakness. Even though Xing Feng was very active, he was still nothing in front of Tang Zheng. The Navy and the Dragon Group will be the vanguard. We will attack and suppress from the air and further investigate the enemy's situation. In addition, the ships will cooperate with the suppressive fire and the boarding team will follow closely behind to carry out the final elimination mission. General Luo ordered. He did not put the Navy at the back but formed the vanguard with the Dragon Group. He did not favor one side over the other. This showed his selfless spirit. Xing Feng was angry but did not dare to speak. He coldly snorted as a tacit agreement. General Luo, I have a suggestion. The National Security Bureau can also be part of the vanguard. We are all hot-blooded men and are not afraid of sacrifice. Su Yingtian volunteered. General Luo said with gratification, good. Since Director Su has such a request, then the three of us will form the vanguard. We are the most important. As long as we attack the enemy, then the comrades behind will have an easier time and there will be fewer sacrifices. Are there any normal people on the ship? Tang Zheng interrupted and asked. Xing Feng heard this and immediately said with disdain, so what if there are normal people? We will still attack. Moreover, their sacrifice is worth it to stop such a big event. Clearly, Xing Feng did not care about the lives of the innocent. Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows and said, there will be retribution for treating human lives like grass. Xing Feng sneered with disdain and did not comment. General Luo looked at Tang Zheng with admiration. It was rumored that he was a bloodthirsty person, but it seemed that the rumors were wrong. A person who cared about ordinary people meant that his heart wasn't too bad. Although General Luo was a soldier who killed decisively, he wouldn't watch as ordinary people lost their lives. Don't worry, Tang Zheng. Preliminary information shows that the people on this ship are all enemies. There are no ordinary people. General Luo comforted him. Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief and nodded in relief. That's good. The operation began. Tang Zheng and Su Yingtian boarded the helicopter together and flew to the target area. The aircraft carrier was also bustling with activity. All kinds of planes took off. At the same time, people soared into the sky and flew up, causing many people to cry out in surprise. These people were naturally the super warriors of the Dragon Group. They were equipped with special equipment that allowed them to fly. However, when the other two behemoths rose from the bottom of the deck, they shocked even more people. Even General Luo, who stayed in the command center of the aircraft carrier, could not help but twitch his eyelids when he saw this scene. Mechas. The two mechas stood tall on the deck. Everyone seemed especially small under the feet of the mechas. Boom. Two blazing flames shot out from the bottom of the mecha's feet. They soared into the sky and then turned in the air, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Xing Feng sat in the helicopter and watched this scene with satisfaction. He then looked at the others' shocked expressions and curled his lips. Country bumpkins. The three heavenly kings sat beside Xing Feng. The Thunder King agreed loudly. Team leader is right. These people are all country bumpkins not worth mentioning. However, Tang Zheng and Su Yingtian went against team leader in front of so many people. This kind of atmosphere cannot be encouraged. We must take action. The Wind King and Water King also nodded in agreement. The Thunder King is right. I've been unhappy with these two guys for a long time. Moreover, the Fire King's death is related to Tang Zheng. We must avenge this. Xing Feng's face darkened and he sneered. I've already warned you that there will be plenty of opportunities for revenge. Previously we were just enduring. Now, isn't this the best opportunity? The Thunder King's eyes lit up. Team leader, are you saying that we should get rid of them this time? Xing Feng smiled meaningfully. Fighting against the demon race is not child's play. Deaths and injuries are inevitable. Some people may never return, remaining in this sea. The three heavenly kings looked at each other in tacit understanding. Then they smiled and said, "Team leader is right. Some people will be buried at the bottom of the sea forever." Amidst the roar of the propellers, Tang Jing also saw the super warriors and mechas flying in the air not far away. He was already familiar with the Dragon Group's assets and was not surprised. However, the opponent's equipment had clearly been upgraded. The mechas before did not have the ability to fly, but now they had made a qualitative leap. However, he was not to be trifled with. In the past he had not been afraid when facing mechas, and now he was not afraid either. On the other hand, Su Yingtian's expression was solemn when he saw this scene. He sighed. "I've been in charge of the National Security Bureau for so many years, but I've been surpassed by the Dragon Group's rising stars. After I die, I won't have the face to meet the previous directors of the National Security Bureau." Tang Jing consoled him. "Chief Su, you're too modest. I heard that the National Security Bureau has made a qualitative leap under your leadership. Their overall strength has far surpassed what it used to be. But compared to the Dragon Group, it pales in comparison." Tang Jing snorted. "Xing Feng is a person who would stop at nothing. Speaking of super warriors, I heard that this project had been in the works for a long time, but it was shelved in the end because it was inhumane. All of the experiments were done on living people. Xing Feng is vicious and merciless, not caring about the lives of others. That's why he pushed for this project. As for how many failed victims there were, it's unknown." Su Yingtian's expression relaxed. "You're quite good at comforting people." Su Yingtian was indeed not such a ruthless person. He wouldn't treat the lives of his subordinates as a joke. In fact, Xing Feng's achievements today were due to many coincidences. If there weren't werewolves in the beginning for his experiments, and if there weren't a large number of demon beast cores to provide energy for his experiments, no matter if it was the super warrior or mecha projects, they wouldn't have succeeded. A huge ship gradually appeared in everyone's vision. Su Yingtian's expression turned cold. He pointed at the ship and said, "That's the target." Tang Jing's pupils shrank. He looked up. The distance was too far, so he couldn't see the exact situation on the ship. However, he could vaguely see that there were people on the deck. The enemy had discovered them. General Luo's dignified voice came from the communication channel. Then, one after another, sharp sounds pierced through the air. One after another, cannonballs flew towards the ship on the water. Suddenly, a ray of light rose from the ship. It bloomed like fireworks, filling the sky with rays of light. They intertwined and fell, forming a huge dome of light that covered the ship. Boom, boom, boom. Loud sounds exploded on the dome of light. Flames filled the sky and waves of air surged. Huge waves were set off on the sea, but the ship inside the dome of light was safe and sound. Everyone in the sky was shocked when they saw this scene. What kind of protective dome was this? It actually had such power to resist such a powerful attack. Continue to attack. General Luo was monitoring the battlefield from a distance. He clearly saw this scene. His heartstrings trembled. Then he regained his composure and continued to give orders. Swoosh, swoosh. Sharp sounds pierced through the air. This time, not only were the planes firing, even Wuxia's ships a few nautical miles away were firing. Missiles rose into the sky one after another. It was like thousands of flowers blooming. The light from dozens of missiles intertwined and even covered the scorching sun in the sky. Everyone looked at the dome of light with anticipation. Boom. After a series of explosions, fine cracks appeared on the dome of light. They quickly expanded. In a moment, the dome of light was full of cracks. Crack. Like glass shattering, the dome of light turned into specks of light and disappeared. Yeah. Cheers came from the sky. The power of technology was indeed extraordinary, breaking this strange dome of light. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But before they could be happy for a while, they saw people flying from the deck. Enemy attack. Everyone began to make a big fuss. Tang Jing's expression was stern. His brows were knitted together. The enemy was strong. There were actually so many demons that could fly. He estimated that there were no less than dozens of them. The demons only have a total of 100 people, and dozens of them have been sent out. This welcoming ceremony is really grand. Su Yingtian said in a deep voice. The demons only have 100 people? Tang Jing was stunned. How come he didn't know about this? You didn't know? Su Yingtian asked in surprise. Of course I didn't know. You didn't tell me. Tang Jing said in a bad mood. Su Yingtian slapped his head and said with shame, I'm really sorry. I was so busy these days that I thought I told you. The latest information shows that not many demons have returned, only 100 or so. So our chances of winning this battle are very high. Tang Jing opened his eyes wide in shock and said, only 100 or so? Yes. What is the 100 Change-Star Sovereign doing? He went through so much trouble and only allowed 100 or so demons to return. This doesn't make sense. Tang Jing muttered. What doesn't make sense? Didn't you say before that the Mountain River Blood Sacrifice Array needs enough spirit energy? Island Nation is such a small country. Of course its spirit energy is not as abundant as our Wuxia. So this array is naturally greatly reduced and can only allow 100 or so demons to return. Su Yingtian explained. Tang Jing muttered to himself. He couldn't help but admit that Su Yingtian's words were not false. Perhaps this was the case. But if this was the case, then wouldn't Yen Qingyi's prophecy be false? The demon army did not return. How could it be the end of the world? Moreover, the image she saw had the demon army. It was completely inconsistent with the current situation. Seeing Tang Jing frowning and not speaking, Su Yingtian said, this is a good thing. Why are you frowning? Tang Jing shook his head and said, let's eliminate these demons first. Chapter 792. The demons were close at hand and the team of dozens of demon experts was still very imposing, standing in the air. Suddenly, rays of light burst out from their hands. Dodge! Tang Jing shouted. The planes rose one after another, flying high into the sky to avoid the magic weapon attacks of the demons. But in the end there was a plane that couldn't dodge in time and was cut in half like cutting tofu. The people in the cabin fell into the sea one after another. Da-da-da. The planes opened fire and balls of fire rushed out, shooting at the demons. But the demons were very agile and it was difficult to catch them. They shuttled through the air and a few more planes fell into the sea. No, if this goes on, we will be annihilated before we can hurt the other side. Su Yingtian shouted anxiously. At first, they thought that after the first round of fire, the command of the demon ship would be blown up and most of the demons would die, so if they fought again their chances of winning would naturally be much higher. They didn't expect the demons' means to be so powerful. A light shield protected the ship without any damage, and then took the initiative to attack. Moreover, they could fly in the air. With so many planes, the advantage of the high ground became a burden. General Luo, we can't hold on like this. Su Tu Yingtianhui reported. Xing Feng, why aren't your super soldiers and mechas moving? General Luo was also anxious and quickly ordered. Xing Feng shrugged lazily, knowing that he couldn't avoid it, and said, just move. Under the order, the super soldiers and mechas moved. Just now, they relied on their strong mobility to avoid the demons' attack, and there was no damage at all. Instead, it was the Navy and the National Security Bureau that suffered the most losses. More than 100 super soldiers and mechas immediately flew towards the demons, and the two sides began a fierce battle in mid-air. In terms of individual strength, the super soldiers were no match for the demons. After all, when a cultivator cultivated to the stage of flying in the air, their cultivation was already not low. Tang Jing broke through to the Jindan realm before he could fly in the air. Tang Jing found people in the Jindan realm among these demons, but the lowest among them was above the fasting realm. Being able to fly in the fasting realm was something that even Tang Jing was unable to do. This was enough to show how powerful the devil race was. However, although the super soldiers were not as strong as the demons individually, with the help of the mechas, their strength was greatly increased. There were already demons who were torn in half by the mechas, and their blood splattered all over the sky. The bloodlust of the demon race was also stimulated, and they began a massacre. The super soldiers also suffered one after another. Their heads were separated from their bodies and they fell into the sea. All of you jump out quickly. The plane is now a huge live target. It's not safe to stay inside. Tang Jing reminded them loudly. Parachutes had already been prepared on the plane, so they all put on their parachutes and jumped into the sea. Tang Jing held Marshall's hand and warned, "Go down and wait for me. I'll be there in a while." "Be careful," Marshall said gently. Tang Jing nodded his head. He leaped out of the cabin but did not fall into the sea because Little White came out from Sumeru World, and with a shake of its body, it became a circle bigger, its four hooves stepping on flames and rose into the air. Tang Jing rode on Xiao Bai's back, waved his hand at the dumbstruck crowd, turned into a bolt of lightning and flew towards the battlefield. When a demon race who was in the fasting realm saw Tang Jing flying over, he immediately waved his magic treasure and rushed over. Kill. Tang Jing growled, the War Soul Sword broke through the air, and with a piu sound, it directly pierced through the chest of the demon race. The other party looked at the big hole in his chest in disbelief, his eyes rolled back, and he turned into a dead fish and fell into the sea. Tang Zheng's appearance immediately attracted a lot of attention, especially the way he appeared was really eye-catching. He was actually riding a demon beast. Not only was the demon race surprised, even Xing Feng and the three heavenly kings who were hiding at the back opened their eyes wide, looking at Tang Zheng and Xiao Bai in disbelief. When did this brat have a flying demon beast? Xing Feng shouted angrily. The three heavenly kings looked at each other, they had never heard of this before. Suddenly, Thunder King stared at Xiao Bai and his eyes lit up. This seems to be the Xiao Bai that has always been by that brat's side. Xiao Bai, isn't he a little guy? How did he become so big? Of course Xing Feng knew about Xiao Bai and knew that this little guy had extraordinary strength, but he never thought that it could actually transform and fly. The three heavenly kings were unable to answer Xing Feng's question, but their expressions were obviously not good. Previously they had planned to find an opportunity to kill Tang Zheng during the battle, but now, it seemed that Tang Zheng's strength had undergone a qualitative leap, and the difficulty had increased. Furthermore, the demon race did not play by the rules, and everything did not develop according to their expectations. Then what should we do later? What do you think we should do? Of course we should act according to the plan. Tang Zheng is getting stronger and stronger, so we can't just sit by and watch him grow stronger. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so killing him can be used as a cover. There won't be the slightest bit of risk. Xing Feng fiercely said. The three heavenly kings nodded solemnly, as you command. Tang Zheng's interference attracted a lot of firepower, and in an instant 5 or 6 demon race gathered around him, all of them glaring at him. You are also a cultivator. Tang Zheng looked at them. These people were old and young, and there were Jindan and Anidia realms. There was even an old man that Tang Zheng could not see through, so his cultivation was probably higher than his. Tang Zheng was not afraid in the slightest, as it was not his style to be afraid before the battle. You are a cultivator, yet you are helping these people deal with us. The demon race roared fiercely. You are demon race and we are of the righteous path. Since ancient times, the righteous path and evil path have not coexisted. Is there a problem? Tang Zheng asked disdainfully. Haha, righteous path, your father, have not killed righteous path cultivators for a long time. Today I will use you as an example. The demon race laughed crazily and roared, kill. 5 or 6 demon race cultivators attacked Tang Zheng together. Tang Zheng took a deep breath, and with a flash of his sword, he used the heaven-flying immortal sword technique. Shwa shwa shwa, the Anidia realm demon race cultivator at the front was cut in two, dying on the spot. But the demon race cultivators at the back were not so easy to deal with. They immediately entangled Tang Zheng, making him unable to pay attention to his back. 2 demon race cultivators brandished their treasures and attacked his back. Jiji. A low and deep cry came from Xiao Bai's mouth, mixed with anger. It opened its mouth and a flame soared into the sky. The demon race cultivators in front of Tang Zheng were immediately engulfed by the flame, and they screamed miserably. Tang Zheng used a few sword moves to deal with these few flaming people, and then suddenly turned around to face the demon race cultivators behind him. When the demon race cultivators saw their companions turned into flaming people, they could not help but turn pale with horror. Their movements subconsciously slowed down by half a beat, giving Tang Zheng the time to react. Seeing the sword light slashing towards them, the 2 of them woke up from a dream, and quickly used their treasures to resist. They retreated in embarrassment, and only then did they save their lives. The white-bearded old man did not make a move. At this moment his expression was not good. He had so many people besieged him, and in the end they were almost wiped out. It was too shameful. You are only a 3rd-grade Jindan, and yet you have such strength. What sector you from? The old man shouted angrily as he saw through Tang Zheng's cultivation. Tang Zheng rarely met people who could see through his cultivation at a glance. After all, he was a cultivator and was different from a martial artist, so even if his cultivation was not high, the masters of the several great families could not see through his cultivation. However, this white-bearded old man was also a cultivator, so of course he did not have this obstacle and easily saw through it. It was because he saw through Tang Zheng's cultivation that he was not in a hurry to make a move. He was a 4th-grade Jindan, 1 level higher than Tang Zheng. Moreover, the others were also in the Jindan stage, which was the same as Tang Zheng. The old man believed that with so many people, it would be easy to kill Tang Zheng. Who would have thought that all day long he would be pecked in the eye by the goose? This brat's fighting strength was simply abnormal, and there was also that monster beast, the flames it spat out were particularly different, with great lethality. Even he had to retreat. Therefore he could not help but be curious about Tang Zheng's origin. Weren't the cultivators of this world expelled? Even if he was lucky enough to find some incomplete cultivation methods, it was absolutely impossible for him to have such a powerful strength. He immediately suspected that the other party must have an expert to guide him. I don't have any sect, but I can't allow you demons to be so rampant. Back then, the demon god died in front of me, and now it's not difficult to deal with you. Tang Zheng stared with wide eyes and shouted loudly. Tang Zheng concluded that the demon god's cultivation was definitely higher than this old man, so he deliberately used the demon god's death to provoke him. Sure enough, when he heard the two words demon god, the old man's eyes were obviously wide open, and he said in disbelief, "You killed the demon god?" At that time the demon god returned with a great mission, which was to use the mountain river blood sacrifice array to lead the demon army back. But in the end there was no news, which made the demon race very worried, and they guessed that the demon god was doomed. Now that he heard that the demon god had died in front of the other party, the old man was naturally angry. "Humph, ignorant brat. Today I will let you know the power of my demon race and avenge the demon god." After the old man finished speaking, he immediately rushed forward. It had to be said that this old man did have some skills, and was something that the other demon clans could not compare to. Tang Zheng immediately felt the pressure, and that earth-shattering aura caused his heart to palpitate. Tang Zheng clenched his teeth and gripped the War Soul Sword tightly. The War Soul Sword started to buzz and tremble, and the sword hummed incessantly. The voice of the sword spirit sounded in Tang Zheng's mind, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" The innate qi in Tang Zheng's body seemed to be boiling, and his power reached its peak. His eyes turned cold and a ray of light shot out and he roared, "Kill!" Xiaobai growled and carried Tang Zheng to meet the old man. Both sides were imposing and the battle was on the verge of breaking out. It was earth-shattering, and in that instant the sky was filled with brilliance, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. Chapter 793. With a light flick of the spear, the skull attacked Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng hurriedly used his sword to block. The skull flashed with a black light and transformed into a huge skull, fiercely biting onto the War Soul Sword. Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows, the sword tip trembled, the skull was shattered, and the War Soul Sword pierced towards the old man. The old man snorted, the spear tip shone with a black light, turning into a black light that filled the sky. Then 49 skulls rushed out from the spear tip, quickly spinning and interweaving together, blocking the attack of the War Soul Sword. After that, the 49 skulls quickly merged into a huge skull. It opened its mouth and directly bit down on Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng raised his War Soul Sword and tried to block it, but the sinister skull had already bitten down, directly wrapping around him and Xiaobai. Yin Qi swirled around him and everything around him fell into darkness. He had entered a world without the slightest bit of light, and a terrifying force attacked him from all directions. Xiaobai flame. Tang Zheng patted Xiaobai's head, and Xiaobai understood. With a low roar, a large ball of flames shot out, illuminating the surroundings. One could clearly see that many small empty skulls were circling around, trying to bite Tang Zheng together. Seeing the flames, these skulls immediately ate, letting out sharp screams and scrambling to escape. However, the flames were even faster, and immediately turned this part of the world into a sea of fire. All the skulls were wrapped in flames. Boom. With an explosion, the huge fire skull exploded. Tang Zheng rode on Xiaobai and jumped out, rushing towards the old man as fast as lightning. The old man shook his spear, and a series of spear arts were awe-inspiring. However, Tang Zheng swung the spear away with his sword, and then grabbed onto the spear shaft, like a vine wrapping around it. He grabbed onto the hand holding the spear. Sky-swallowing technique. A terrifying light burst out from Tang Zheng's eyes, and he immediately used the swallowing sky technique. The old man's power was like a flood breaking through a dam, pouring into Tang Zheng's body. Ah! The old man shrieked in horror. What are you doing? What kind of cultivation technique is this? Didn't you call yourselves demons? How come you don't even recognize the heaven-swallowing technique? Tang Zheng jokingly said as he madly circulated his energy, absorbing the heaven-swallowing technique even faster. Sky-swallowing technique? The old man's eyes were filled with suspicion. Could it be that the legend is true? What legend? Tang Zheng asked curiously. The devil race's sky-swallowing technique is incomplete. The true sky-swallowing technique has the ability to penetrate the heavens and penetrate the earth. Absorbing other people's power is one of them. You are a righteous cultivator, how can you have the complete sky-swallowing technique? The old man's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. This discovery puzzled him no matter how hard he thought about it, and he also felt a deep sense of fear. If the legend was true, then his situation was not optimistic. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up as he suddenly came to a realization. So that's how it is. The cultivation technique taken out from Langya Pavilion is indeed the second half of the sky-swallowing technique. It's just that it was placed together with the martial skill, so I really can't guess the reason behind it. Langya Pavilion, you actually went to Langya Pavilion? When the old man heard Tang Zheng talking to himself, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. What is your relationship with the dragon race? Humph, there's no need to tell you about my relationship with the dragon race. Tang Zheng said disdainfully. The old man's face was ashen as he stared straight at Tang Zheng and said, there has always been a rumor that the true sky-swallowing technique was snatched away by the dragon race. I didn't expect it to be true. That cultivation technique was snatched away by the dragon race from the hands of your demon race? Tang Zheng was very curious. Is the sky-swallowing technique really worth the dragon race making such a big fuss over it? The old man was already speechless. His psychological defenses had completely collapsed. The mysterious power that Tang Zheng had displayed had given him a fatal blow, causing his hopes of survival to vanish into thin air. Seeing that the old man was unable to say anything, Tang Zheng quickly absorbed the old man's cultivation technique. Not long after, the old man's cultivation technique was completely absorbed. The 4th grade golden core cultivation technique was completely absorbed into Tang Zheng's body, and the old man instantly aged several decades. His body shriveled up and his head tilted to the side. When the sea breeze blew, he actually turned into powder and scattered with the wind. Tang Zheng was also shocked by this scene. The power of the sky-swallowing technique was so great. Not only could it absorb cultivation technique, it could also be fatal, even turning the opponent into powder. Moreover, he also made a new discovery. This time, it was obvious that the speed at which he absorbed Song Jinan's cultivation technique was much faster than the last time. Moreover, the total power of the 4th grade golden core was far greater than the last time. Tang Zheng had already felt that the genuine qi in his body was rising, and with the speed of lightning he broke through to the 4th grade of the Jindan stage. Moreover, the genuine qi was still increasing as if it was about to break through again. When the other demons saw this scene, they were all stunned. They did not hear the conversation between the two. They only saw the old man being killed by a strange method. They were all shocked. Xing Feng and the 3 heavenly kings saw this scene from afar and were all dumbfounded. After a long while they came back to their senses. Xing Feng said with a gloomy face, how did he become so powerful? I'm afraid his cultivation has already reached the Grandmaster realm. The Thunder King said with lingering fear. The Wind King and the Water King nodded at the same time. He must have reached it. How long has he been cultivating? How could his cultivation be so high? Xing Feng said angrily. No one could answer this question. Then what should we do? The Thunder King asked. Xing Feng stared at Tang Zheng from afar. Flames of hatred flickered in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to skin Tang Zheng alive. Let our people attack the ship. Let the demons in the sky deal with him. I don't believe that these dozens of demons can't deal with him alone. Xing Feng wanted to use someone else to do his job. The 3 heavenly kings immediately agreed and gave the order. The remaining super soldiers and mechas in the sky abandoned their opponents and rushed toward the ship. Tang Zheng became the target of public criticism. Dozens of demons immediately surrounded him. They had all seen Tang Zheng kill the old man, so they rushed to avenge their comrade. Kill him. With this order, an earth-shattering attack arrived in front of Tang Zheng. The sky was filled with magic treasures, and the light made the world colorful. Tang Zheng had never faced so many magic treasures before. There was no lack of earth-grade and heaven-grade magic treasures. The power was definitely not to be underestimated. Moreover, he could see at a glance that 5 of them had higher cultivation than him. They were at least 4th grade golden core or higher. The demon race was really full of talents. There were actually so many experts. With this earth-shattering attack, how could Tang Zheng fight alone? He immediately turned around and dove toward the ship. Xing Feng, you ordered your subordinates to abandon me. This is a borrowed knife to kill someone. How can I let you succeed? Tang Zheng was not stupid. He immediately saw through Xing Feng's plan. Immediately he was on guard against the dragon ancestor. He did not expect Xing Feng to dare to risk universal condemnation and play tricks at this time, intending to kill him. You do the first, I do the 15th. Let's wait and see. Xiaobai was agile and fast. He actually carried Tang Jing out of the encirclement and chased after the dragon ancestor. Xing Feng was also wearing a flying device, so when he turned his head to look, he discovered that Tang Jing had caught up to him. His expression became even uglier as he said, "This brat actually managed to escape and caught up to me." Boom, boom. With two loud sounds, two huge mecha landed on the deck. The deck immediately caved in, and the ship violently shook a few times, almost flipping over. The super soldiers also landed on the deck one after another. The deck had long since become a battlefield. Blood dyed the deck red. It turned out that the soldiers of the National Security Bureau who jumped out of the parachute were the first to board the deck and then fought with the demon race. However, the situation was not optimistic. The demon race on the deck was even stronger. Many of the soldiers of the National Security Bureau had already fallen on the ground, but none of them retreated. They fought to the end until their last breath. Wu had already killed a few demons. The power of the Fire Nether Divine Palm was extremely strong. Suing Tian also completely displayed his strength. He started a massacre, and wherever he went, the demons would fall to the ground. Both sides had already killed until their eyes were red. When they saw the dragon ancestor descending from the sky, a few more demons rushed out of the ship and fought with the dragon ancestor. This was an extremely tragic and chaotic battle. The mecha's body was huge. It directly trampled a few demons into meat patties, effectively restraining the demons' attacks. There was a person standing on the mast of the ship. This person was already middle-aged. He was dressed in ancient clothes. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His face was cold and his eyes were strange. It was as if just looking at him was enough to take people's souls. He held a folding fan in his hand and gently tapped it in his palm. He coldly looked at the scene. The tragic battle was like an ancient well without any ripples. It was as if all of this could not cause a single ripple in his heart. The so-called technology of the human world is indeed powerful. They actually created such a powerful and strange thing. The 100 Change Star Lord was right. This return trip is really not that easy. He muttered to himself. Suddenly he jumped from the mast and jumped towards a mecha. The folding fan in his hand fiercely hit the mecha's head. Boom. A loud sound rang out. The folding fan hit the top of the mecha's head. A large hole appeared on the sturdy top of the mecha's head. Green smoke rose. The mecha's lightning flashed and fell to the ground. It flipped over the deck and fell into the sea with a plop. With just one move he took care of a mecha. In fact, it was difficult to deal with a mecha. It was also easy to say that it was easy. They were made of electronic equipment. As long as the main core equipment was destroyed, the mecha would lose its function and become useless. The mecha's brain was the center of the electronic equipment. As long as the brain was destroyed, everything would collapse. However, to do this was not an easy task. Not only did one have to break through the mecha's defense, one also had to break through the hard shell outside its brain. But this person did it. It was an understatement. Everyone saw this scene and their minds were greatly shaken. Especially Xing Feng. His face was gloomy as if it was covered with dark clouds. Chapter 794. Xing Feng watched as the mecha fell to the bottom of the sea. His face was ashen and a chill ran down his spine. His lips trembled as he muttered to himself, "Just how high is this person's cultivation?" Suddenly Xing Feng felt a gaze on him. It was as if his blood was about to freeze. He quickly looked up and saw the man with the folding fan staring at him. He wanted to shift his gaze away, but he found that his body was out of his control. He was dumbstruck and dizzy. The Thunder Sovereign noticed his abnormal state and immediately dragged him to the side, shouting, "Team leader, wake up!" Xing Feng's body trembled as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at the Thunder King with a pale face. His eyes have a magical power. For a moment, Xing Feng felt as if his soul was about to leave his body. The Thunder King nodded. "Yes, this person is very strange. We shouldn't provoke him. Let's choose someone else to deal with." The Wind King said worriedly, "Team leader, since the demon race has such a super expert, I'm afraid our mission this time will be ruined." Xing Feng snorted. He rolled his eyes and said meaningfully, "So what if it's ruined? We're just following orders. If we can't succeed in the end, it's not our responsibility. Team leader, you mean that even if the demon race returns to the continent, it doesn't matter? Xing Feng smiled meaningfully. If the enemy is weak, then it's not impossible for us to wipe them out. But if the enemy is too strong and we insist on doing things our way, the one who will suffer losses in the end will be our dragon group. In that case, wouldn't those fellows from the National Security Bureau die of laughter? After pausing for a moment, he added, moreover, the return of the demon race might not be a bad thing for us. Our dragon group can take the opportunity to ask for more resources from the country and develop faster. The three heavenly kings looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Team leader is wise. The dragon group slacked off, so their fighting strength was naturally reduced. The demon race's arrogance increased greatly. Bang! Tang Jing also landed on the deck, and when he saw the demon clan closing in on him step by step, his expression changed greatly. The demon clan on the deck was definitely not inferior to the demon clan in the sky, especially the man with the folding fan, who was even more powerful and unfathomable. In any case, with Tang Jing's strength, there was no way he could destroy a mech so easily in an instant. With such an expert in charge, while Tang Jing's side didn't have a top-notch expert, wouldn't the difference in strength be obvious? The man with the folding fan leisurely strolled on the deck. With a light tap of the fan in his hand, someone immediately fell to the ground and died. There was no miss, and the killing power was astonishing. Not far from the man with the folding fan was Wu. Wu was valiant and exceptionally eye-catching. It was obvious that the man with the folding fan was targeting her. Tang Jing's bowstring trembled. He shouted, "Wu, be careful." Xiao Bai spat out a flame, turning the demon clan in front of him into a flaming man. Then Tang Jing took advantage of the opportunity and passed through the gap between the flaming man, arriving behind Wu. The folding fan man slowly extended his arm and pointed his folding fan at Xiang Wu's heart. Tang Jing tensed up. He immediately grabbed onto Marshall's clothes and pulled back, causing Marshall to retreat. At the same time, Tang Jing stepped forward and stood in front of Wu, protecting him. With a buzz, the heaven-shocking bow shot towards the opponent. Against an expert of this level, Tang Jing immediately gave up on using the War Soul Sword and switched to the more powerful heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows. Once the shooting sun arrows were released, the aura changed abruptly. Even the expression of the folding fan man changed slightly as he exclaimed in a low voice, "What a powerful bow and arrow!" The man with the folding fan did not retreat. He suddenly pointed out his folding fan and struck the shooting sun arrows. Clang! With a loud sound, the powerful shockwave overturned the nearby super warriors and demon clan. "Marshall, retreat!" Tang Jing shouted. He leaped into the air. He had already drawn his bow and shot the second shooting sun arrow towards the opponent, followed by the third. The two arrows, one in front and one behind, caused the air to churn, making it difficult for people to breathe. The man with the folding fan's calm face became serious and said, "Your cultivation is not high, but you have the help of a divine weapon. This is truly rare. I want to see what kind of abilities you have." Schwab. The folding fan opened, and a painting appeared on the folding fan. At first glance, it caused one's blood to boil. There were actually a few naked women in these paintings. They were lifelike and seductive, causing people to blush and their hearts to beat faster. With a wave of the folding fan, a ray of light flashed, cleverly removing the power of the shooting sun arrows. However, the veins on the folding fan man's arms were bulging. It was obvious that it took him a lot of effort to resolve these two consecutive attacks. Tang Jing was overwhelmed with shock. 3 consecutive arrows did not even harm the opponent's skin. Just how high was the opponent's cultivation? He was about to draw his bow again when he saw a strange light flash past the folding fan man's eyes. The light from the folding paper shone brightly, immediately attracting his gaze to the few women on the folding fan. Boom! A surge of boiling qi and blood surged out from Tang Jing's dantian and rushed out in all directions. The pure yang energy had exploded. It was unknown what kind of evil technique the folding fan man used, but he was able to activate Tang Jing's pure yang energy in an instant. In Tang Jing's eyes, the women on the folding fan walked out of the painting and flew towards him. Every part of their body was exposed, causing the flames in his heart to ignite. He was dumbstruck. His cheeks were red and his body was hot as he looked at the opponent. "Tang Jing, what happened to you?" Marshall quickly grabbed his hand and asked, but immediately felt pain. She sucked in a breath of cold air and subconsciously let go of his hand. His hand was like a hot iron. Marshall was shocked. She had seen Tang Zheng like this before and knew that the pure yang energy had exploded. She subconsciously looked at the enemy and coincidentally saw the painting on the folding fan. Her cheeks turned red and she secretly cursed. She was well aware that the enemy must have used some kind of sinister technique to cause Tang Zheng to fall into this predicament. During a great battle, the eruption of the pure yang energy was not a good thing. In fact, the reason why Tang Zheng was able to erupt with the pure yang energy so easily was not only because of the enemy's fuse, but also because of his own internal reasons. During this period of time, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. Just now, he had broken through to the 4th stage of the Jindan stage. At the same time that his cultivation had increased greatly, his pure yang energy had also increased day by day. This time, it had finally exploded, causing him to fall into a predicament. The folding fan man sneered complacently, "After falling into my illusory god-devil realm, I want to see how you can escape. Your divine weapon is also useless." Illusory god-devil realm. Marshall's heart skipped a beat, thinking that something was wrong. If he allowed Tang Zheng to continue sinking, the consequences would be unimaginable. Tang Zheng did not react at all, as if he was a puppet. Xing Feng and his subordinates looked at each other and said in a low voice, "Tang Zheng is going to be finished. Yes, we will rush over immediately. We must ensure that he dies without a doubt," Thunder King said excitedly. He originally thought that he had missed a good opportunity, but who would have thought that the demon clan would help them? The few of them immediately and quietly moved closer to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng. Marshall endured the pain and grabbed onto Tang Zheng, but he still did not react. Seeing that his body temperature was getting higher and higher, Marshall bit his lips, the expression in his eyes fluctuating. In the end he kissed Tang Zheng. Many people were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Please, this is a battlefield, not at home. How could they kiss? Even the folding fan man was stunned. For a moment he forgot to stop Marshall. Marshall's actions were forced. In order to suppress Tang Zheng's pure yang energy, he could only rely on the pure yin energy in her body, and this environment was obviously not suitable for him to do anything too intimate. Kissing was the best way to transmit the pure yin energy. As expected, when the pure yin energy entered Tang Zheng's body, the pure yang energy gradually calmed down, and his lifeless eyes gradually regained their luster. The illusion in front of him disappeared, and those women were no longer there. Marshall pulled him out of the illusory god-devil realm. The moment he woke up, he saw Marshall kissing his lips affectionately, a trace of coldness coming from her lips. He instantly understood that in order to save him, Marshall had no choice but to take this measure. His heart couldn't help but feel warm as he hugged her. Marshall was pleasantly surprised, her lips parted and she cheered in surprise, "You're awake." Tang Zheng nodded, "And thank you." He was very clear about the danger he was in just now. If an ordinary person were to fall into the illusory god-devil realm, they would lose their mind and give the enemy a chance to take advantage of them. But Tang Zheng was different. This would detonate the pure yang energy in his body, and in the end, cause his body to explode and die, the situation was even more serious. He couldn't help but pay 120% attention. The enemy was far stronger than he had imagined, and in a moment of carelessness, he had almost completely fallen. When the folding fan man saw that Tang Zheng had woken up, he opened his eyes wide in disbelief and screamed, "Impossible, how can your cultivation break through my illusory god-devil realm? Could it be that kiss can break through my illusory god-devil realm?" Obviously he had never thought that his spell would be broken so easily. In fact, if it was an ordinary person, this method would definitely not work. This method was only effective against Tang Zheng alone. The folding fan man was not clear about this point, and the gaze he used to look at Tang Zheng became even more complicated as he muttered in his heart, "This brat's body is filled with strangeness, and is completely different from ordinary cultivators. Who exactly is he? What is his identity?" Xing Feng and the other three were originally prepared to add fuel to the fire and sneak attack Tang Zheng, but they didn't expect that when they were not far behind Tang Zheng, the other party would suddenly wake up. They immediately stopped in their tracks and looked at each other in disappointment, not daring to advance any further. Xing Feng gritted his teeth in hatred, clenched his fists, and stared at Tang Zheng's back with an ashen face. Tang Zheng did not know what the few of them were thinking. He released his martial arts and said, "You should watch the battle. After suffering a loss once, it won't be that easy this time." Tang Zheng did not look at the other party's eyes and folding fan, and immediately started to shoot arrows. 2 arrows were placed on the heaven-shocking bow, and the 2 arrows shot out together. So. Two arrows shot towards the folding fan man side by side. The folding fan man's expression was cold as he roared, "My illusory god devil realm was unable to do anything to you. Now I can pinch you to death with 2 fingers and you will die even more miserably." With that, his figure disappeared and he rushed straight towards the sun-shooting arrow. He reached out with his hand, grabbed one of the sun-shooting arrow and threw it to the side. Boom, boom, boom. The sun-shooting arrow pierced through the chests of a few people before stopping. The other sun-shooting arrow was fiercely struck by his folding fan, directly piercing through the deck and shooting towards the bottom of the ship, disappearing without a trace. Chapter 795. The man with the folding fan waved the fan in his hand. Rays of cold light flashed and shot out from the fan, heading straight for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng pushed his hand forward. A black light flashed and a wall-like shield appeared in front of him. Sacred armor shield. The Turtle Clan's ancestors' oracle bone, a heaven-level treasure. Clang, clang, clang. The sacred armor shield shook but blocked the opponent's attack. The man's eyes flashed with surprise. He exclaimed, "The Turtle Clan's oracle bone, a heaven-level treasure. Hey, you have so many treasures on you." The man could not hide the greed on his face. Tang Zheng was extremely confident in the sacred armor shield. With the sacred armor shield in hand, he once again rushed forward. The battle soul sword flew out and clashed intensely with the folding fan man. Heaven-flying immortal sword technique. The man exclaimed again, "Kid, what is your relationship with Kingsaman?" Back then, the demon god also recognized the heaven-flying immortal sword technique. Therefore, Tang Zheng was not surprised that the man also recognized it. As for Kingsaman, the demon god once said that Kingsaman had lost its former glory. However, it was probably true that the demon god was very familiar with the sword technique. Otherwise, there would not be so many demons who recognized it. Seeing Tang Zheng remain silent, the man with the folding fan roared, "A mere remnant of the clear void sect dares to obstruct this demon lord? I will make you die without a burial." Demon god? Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. Back then, it was the demon god. He did not know if the demon god or the demon god was stronger. The demon god took a deep breath and roared, "Demon eye soul destruction." As soon as he finished speaking, the demon god's eyes turned pitch black. Tang Zheng subconsciously looked at his eyes. His mind became unstable and he had the urge to vomit. "Everyone be careful of his eyes," Tang Zheng reminded loudly. He pulled martial and quickly hid behind the sacred armor shield. He did not dare to look up. The others were not so smart. Many of them subconsciously looked at the demon god's eyes. In an instant they stopped moving and exploded into flesh and blood. This, Tang Zheng shuddered. Demonic eye soul extermination. How could this spell be so strange? Just looking at it would cause one's body to explode and die. He had never heard of or seen anything like this before. In an instant, many soldiers from the Dragon Group and the National Security Bureau exploded and died. Everyone quickly retreated and hid far away with the demon lord, not daring to look into his eyes. Su Yingtian quietly came to Tang Zheng's side and asked anxiously, "What do we do now?" Tang Zheng said with a solemn expression, "The enemy's strength is beyond our imagination. Although there are only 100 of them, we've lost even more people in this battle. We can't do anything alone. We have to call for backup." Originally, they had been full of confidence and thought that the 100 MO were not a threat. Now, they understood why the ancient Xiozha had always been in the lead. It was because their strength was really too strong. Now, with such advanced technology and weapons, they still couldn't do anything to the demon, let alone the ancient technology. Su Yingtian's mouth twitched a few times. Only he knew how it felt to watch his subordinates die in battle. He wished he could die in their place. Call for backup. Without that light shield we can definitely get some results. Su Yingtian gritted his teeth and said, "No, do you want us to die?" Xing Feng's voice sounded behind him. Although the Dragon Group had ulterior motives, they had sacrificed a lot. When they heard that they were going to call for backup, it would be an indiscriminate attack. Everyone on the ship would suffer. Not only the demon but also the Dragon Group and the National Security Bureau. Su Yingtian snorted and said, "You're afraid of death, but I'm not. In order to prevent these demons from entering Wuxia, what's the point of sacrificing? A soldier's duty is to protect the homeland and the people. If you're afraid of death, you're a coward." Xing Feng's face turned red and said, "You want to die, but I don't." He wouldn't sacrifice his life for others. So what if the demons invaded Wuxia? He had the dragon group and could fight them as equals. Xingfeng, are you still a soldier? Su Yingtian said angrily. I'm not a stupid soldier. I advise you to forget about preaching to me. Xingfeng snorted. Chief Su, why are you saying this to this kind of person? He only has himself in his heart. Tang Jing advised. You're right. Saying this to him is like playing the lute to a cow. Xingfeng sneered. There really are a lot of fools in this world. Pretending to be virtuous. Chief Su was too lazy to pay attention and directly asked General Luo for backup. General Luo understood the serious consequences of this and asked, Chief Su, what about you? We will fight until the last moment. General Luo's heart warmed and said, I salute you. Nothing needed to be said. As an old general, General Luo understood what it meant if he didn't fire. Su Yingtian chose to fight until the last moment, which meant he chose to sacrifice himself to stop the enemy. This kind of fearless sacrifice was worthy of respect. Chief Su, take care. General Luo said with a choked voice. There was no doubt that the next round of attacks would be even more terrifying. It would be very difficult to survive. After ending the call, Su Yingtian's face revealed a determined expression. Xingfeng's expression changed greatly and said fiercely, Su Yingtian, Tang Jing, if you want to go crazy, I won't go crazy with you. Call for backup. Then we won't accompany you. Retreat. Xingfeng originally wanted to wait for an opportunity to get rid of Tang Jing. Since Tang Jing insisted on staying, he would definitely die, so there was no need for him to act. With the help of the Demon Sovereign's demonic eye soul extinguisher, the demons were like tigers that had grown wings. They forced the enemy to retreat. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly there was a sharp sound in the sky. Looking up, they saw a dense cloud of missiles flying over. Retreat. Xingfeng roared. All the super soldiers and the remaining mech rose into the air and flew towards the horizon. The demons had seen the power of the missiles and wanted to leave the ship to escape. Su Yingtian roared, Stop them. The surviving National Security Bureau soldiers all shouted and rushed towards the demons, holding them back. Boom boom boom. The missiles hit the ship and the huge explosion created a huge shockwave that instantly vaporized many people. The shockwave wreaked havoc and everyone was affected. The second Tang Jing exploded. He quickly put Wu Xiaobai, Su Yingtian, Kai Guibin and a few other National Security Bureau soldiers into Sumeru Qianxia and then raised the sacred armor shield. Bang! The terrifying shockwave struck the sacred armor shield and it almost flew out of his hands, protecting Tang Jing as he flew out of the deck. Tang Jing felt that his body was no longer his own. His internal organs were all displaced and the impact on his internal organs was terrifying. He spat out a large mouthful of blood. Plop. He fell into the sea and his vision blurred. He actually fainted and quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. The ship had already been reduced to ruins. The sea water poured into the cabin and the ship quickly sank. There were many corpses on the deck. The National Security Bureau and demons were all lying on the deck, sinking into the sea together. A person was floating on the surface of the sea, the demon lord. At this moment, his clothes were tattered and his face was covered in dust. He was in a sorry state. He looked at everything with an ashen face and gritted his teeth. Damn it, the others are all dead. Of the demons on the ship, other than him who had escaped with his life because he was the strongest, the others had all died. The demon lord finally experienced the power of modern technology. He suddenly raised his head and found that the group of deserters in the sky were still eyeing him covetously. Xingfeng and the rest also found the demon lord. Their hearts trembled. The terrifying battle strength of the demon lord, especially the last demon eye soul extermination, was still fresh in their minds. Leader, what should we do? The Thunder King asked. Xingfeng's expression kept changing. He looked at the demon lord from afar and hesitated for a long time. Retreat. The demon lord isn't that easy to deal with. Don't drag us into this. Anyway, the others are already dead. The dead tell no tales and no one will find out about us. Also, Wind King and Water King, bring the other super soldiers and mechas back to our base. Be careful not to be discovered by outsiders. I will announce to the public that all of you have been sacrificed. Thunder King will return to the carrier with me. The Thunder King understood and said, Leader, you're worried that the National Security Bureau will be wiped out while we still have so many people left. That will arouse the suspicion of the higher-ups? Xingfeng nodded. Exactly. This matter can't be used against us by others. Otherwise, it will be extremely disadvantageous for us. After this battle, all the elites of the National Security Bureau will be wiped out. The world will be ours in the future. His eyes flashed with madness. That demon lord survived and will definitely return to the country. What should we do then? Xing Feng snorted. Can't the power of the entire country deal with one demon lord? When the time comes, our forces will become stronger and stronger. Dealing with the demon lord will be a piece of cake. Leader, you're far-sighted. We swear to follow you to death. The Wind King and Water King quickly said, We'll take our people and leave first. Go. Xing Feng nodded. He watched as his subordinates disappeared into the horizon. Then he looked at the demon lord on the surface of the sea and said, Let's go too. Seeing that everyone in the sky had retreated, the demon lord breathed a sigh of relief. He had been seriously injured this time and needed to find a place to heal as soon as possible. Choosing a direction, he sped away on the surface of the sea and soon disappeared. General Luo looked at the battered and exhausted Xing Feng and the Thunder King. Hearing the news they brought back, he could not help but feel a deep sense of despair. He sighed faintly and said, Chief Su and all the soldiers are martyrs. They were willing to sacrifice their lives for the country and the people. This kind of fearless spirit is the example we will always learn from. A trace of smug ridicule flashed through the depths of Xing Feng's eyes. He and the Thunder King had deliberately made themselves look battered and exhausted. They had even deliberately inflicted many wounds on themselves before returning to the aircraft carrier. They had long since prepared a set of excuses, and as expected, General Luo was fooled. Old man Luo, you're so muddle-headed. There will come a day when your aircraft carrier fleet will also be mine. Xing Feng was secretly pleased. General Luo did not know of Xing Feng's evil thoughts and said sincerely, Xing Feng, I will report this to the chief and ask for credit for you. Xing Feng said passionately, as a soldier, protecting the country is what we should do. We dare not claim credit. Chapter 796. In the sea, Tang Jing quickly sank. Darkness surrounded him, giving him a suffocating feeling. Tang Jing was still in a coma, completely unaware that the seawater was pouring into his mouth, causing bubbles to appear one after another. If this continued for a while, he would definitely drown. Suddenly, a golden light flew out from his glabella. It gradually spread around his body and turned into pieces of golden scales. Dragon scales. Back then, he had transformed into golden dragon scales in Emperor Qin's tomb. Now the dragon scales had appeared again and covered his entire body. The suffocating feeling immediately disappeared. It was as if he had turned into a fish, freely breathing the oxygen in the air. A shark swam over. When it saw its prey, its eyes instantly lit up. It shook its tail and flashed its 2 rows of long teeth at Tang Jing. When the shark swam to Tang Jing's side and opened its bloody mouth to enjoy this delicious meal, a golden light flashed and a powerful dragon aura was emitted from Tang Jing's body. The shark's fierce eyes immediately became docile. It was as if it had turned into an obedient kitten. It carried Tang Jing and quickly swam to the surface of the sea. A moment later, the shark carried Tang Jing to the surface of the sea. Under the sun, the dragon scales on Tang Jing's body shone brightly, causing the surrounding sea to become golden. On the golden sea, a shark carried Tang Jing and swam happily. There was a long school of fish following behind it. Occasionally, fish would jump out of the water. Tang Jing slowly opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was a dazzling golden light on the sea. It was so dazzling that he subconsciously covered his eyes with his hand. He saw the golden dragon scales on his arm and opened his mouth in surprise. Dragon scales, the dragon god technique is working again? He still remembered the shocking scene of him transforming into a dragon in the mausoleum. Those scales were shining with golden light, like armor, making people feel deep veneration for him. However, he only remembered that he fell into the sea and then lost consciousness. He couldn't remember anything after that. The dragon god art is truly miraculous. He clicked his tongue in admiration. The dragon god art must have played a role in his survival. He stood up and looked around. He was stunned again. The iconic fin in the water was something he had seen in many movies and TV shows. Sharks. He was shocked, but he calmed down in an instant. Ordinary people might be afraid of sharks, but he shouldn't be. Why am I standing on the back of a shark? It doesn't seem to be as vicious and bloodthirsty as the legends say. Hearing the sound of splashing water behind him, he turned his head to look and was instantly stunned again. CK. What was going on? Why are there so many fish following behind me? The sharks and the huge school of fish were too strange. He finally realized that all of this was probably related to the dragon scales on his body. Dragon scale, you actually made a shark submit to you. You're really amazing. Tang Jing gently stroked the dragon's roar on his body and muttered to himself. After lamenting, he was faced with a huge problem. He had lost his way. There was no point of reference in this vast sea. He couldn't even tell which direction was north, south, east, and west. He had no idea where he was now. What was the final result of the battle? Has the demon race been completely wiped out? He tried hard to recall the details, but he could only remember the moment of the explosion. As for the life and death of the demons and the others, he knew nothing. I have to find a way to go back. Other than confirming the result of the battle, my shooting sun arrow must have fallen into the sea in the explosion. I have to find a way to get it back. The shooting sun arrow was extraordinary. He couldn't just leave it in the sea and leave it behind. Let's brainstorm and gather the others. There was no place to stand in the sea, but this didn't stop him. He waved to the school of fish behind him. Thousands of fish gathered together, forming a place that looked like land. Come out. Whoosh. Sumeru's world flashed and everyone was standing on top of the school of fish. These people were sucked into Sumeru's world a second before the explosion, so they weren't hurt, but they were still frightened. A second ago they were still fighting a great battle. The next second they entered a strange world. This world was completely different from the outside world. It was as if they were in a ghost world. It made their hair stand on end. Sumi Tian was very big. It was far bigger than the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang. These people arrived at an empty land. As far as the eye could see, it stretched as far as the eye could see. Moreover, the sky above their heads was gloomy, and they could only see some blurry things. This huge difference between before and after almost made them collapse. Fortunately, with Su Yingtian and Marshall's comfort, everyone was able to relax. However, no one dared to guarantee when they would be able to leave. They could only pray in their hearts. As for what kind of world this was, even Marshall couldn't say. Marshall was very worried about what would happen to Tang Jing in the explosion. Would he be injured? Or would he? No, she quickly rejected this idea. He was blessed by the heavens. He definitely wouldn't be able to turn misfortune into fortune. However, her heart was still uneasy. Every minute and every second felt like torture. After an unknown period of time, to everyone it felt like a century. Suddenly the scene in front of them changed. In the next second they left that strange world and arrived above the vast sea. Some of them couldn't help but scream. Tang Jing. Marshall locked onto the person who was standing not far away and had always been worried about him. He rushed over like the wind and hugged him tightly, not letting go. The feeling of being separated by life and death just now was too unbearable. It was as if her life had been shattered into pieces. Seeing Tang Jing again, her life was instantly pieced back together. The corner of Tang Jing's mouth slightly curved into a smile, patted her back and comforted her. Am I not fine? Don't worry. The explosion was so powerful. Are you injured? Marshall started to search his body, as if he was afraid that he would lose an arm or a leg, or that he would be injured somewhere. I'm really fine. Tang Jing raised his hands, allowing her to check them. Actually, when he was unconscious he had suffered quite a few injuries. However, ever since the dragon scales grew, his injuries had miraculously healed. What is this on your body? Only then did Marshall notice the dragon scales on his body. He gently caressed them and asked curiously. The others also stared at him. At the moment he was too dazzling. The golden light shone like a golden man made of gold. Especially those dragon scales, they gave off an incomparably intimidating aura. However, they had never seen a golden dragon before, so they couldn't help but think that those were dragon scales. But without a doubt, Tang Jing, who was currently emitting a dragon's might, gave people a deep impression, causing them to have the urge to kowtow to him. Even Su Yingtian, who had been in a high position for many years, had an illusion. He couldn't help but be overwhelmed with shock. His eyes stared straight at Tang Jing as if he wanted to remember every single detail. After checking for a long time and confirming that Tang Jing was unharmed, she heaved a sigh of relief and said, I'm really fine. That's great. Tang Jing smiled faintly, then looked at the crowd and asked, Is everyone all right? They were all very grateful to Tang Jing for lending a helping hand at the critical moment. Otherwise, no one would be able to stand here so steadily. Many people subconsciously lowered their heads to look, thinking that the feeling of being on solid ground was great. However, with just a glance, everyone was stunned. Then cries of alarm rang out from all directions. We are in the sea, there are fish beneath our feet, so many fish. Look at Tang Jing, there's a shark beneath his feet. It's really a shark. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at Tang Zheng with mixed feelings. Sharks and so many fish actually listened to his words. This is too miraculous. Everyone clicked their tongues in admiration. Looking at the astonished expressions of the crowd, the corners of Wu's mouth couldn't help but curl up into a smile. Tang Zheng, what was the result of the battle? Su Yingtian was the first to recover from his shock. With a cold expression he asked, "Where are we now?" Tang Zheng's expression became serious and said, "Director Su, I don't know what happened to the ship in the end. I was unconscious at the time. When I woke up, I was in this vast sea, lost my way and couldn't find any traces of the ship." "No worries, we have a way." Su Yingtian waved his hand and nodded to his subordinates. Then, someone took out a simple device and quickly determined their position. However, the other party's expression was clearly strange. He hesitated and said, "Director Su, we are now in the South Sea." "South Sea?" Everyone cried out in alarm at the same time. The battle clearly happened in the East Sea, which was 108,000 miles away from the South Sea. How did they end up in the South Sea? Everyone tacitly looked at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng laughed bitterly. "I don't know either." He really didn't know. He still wanted to go back and find the sun shooting arrows, but now that he had come to the South Sea in a daze, didn't that mean that this plan was ruined? Sun shooting arrows, I have to be careful when using them in the future. Otherwise they will all be wasted. This is a life-saving treasure, I can't be careless. Let's go ashore and return home first. Su Yingtian commanded and then pointed in a direction. Tang Zheng understood and immediately commanded the shark to take the lead. The fish followed behind and swam towards the mainland. With just a thought, the fish seemed to have received the order and moved towards the target. Su Yingtian came in front of Tang Zheng and asked in a low voice, "What about the other demons? Especially that demon sovereign, did he die or not?" The demon sovereign had left a deep impression on Su Yingtian. After escaping from death, he remembered his responsibility and mission. Tang Zheng solemnly shook his head. "I don't know. At that time I was already unconscious. However, with such a terrifying explosion, if it was an ordinary demon, I'm afraid they would have died on the spot." Su Yingtian's mind was restless as he said, "You must not let your guard down. The battle this time is very tough and very cruel. Since we can survive, maybe the demons also have a way to avoid this disaster. Therefore this is still not the final victory. Only by completely wiping out the demon race can we succeed." Tang Zheng and the others deeply agreed and nodded their heads, one after another agreeing. Chapter 797. Xing Feng returned to the capital covered in scars, and received a high-level reception from the chief, who gave him full recognition. Xing Feng reported that the others were all wiped out and died bravely. As for the demons, they were all wiped out. Although the chief felt that it was a pity that so many people died, especially Su Yingtian and Tang Zheng, he sighed. But he also felt gratified. At least, the sacrifices of so many people were worth it. The demons were completely wiped out, and the dangerous factor was eliminated. Xing Feng received a grand reward. The National Security Bureau was leaderless and suffered heavy losses. The rest were all merged into the Dragon Group, and the Dragon Group ushered in a situation where it was the strongest. Xing Feng dealt with some disobedient members of the National Security Bureau at lightning speed, and then logically took the National Security Bureau under his command. He was proud of his success, and everyone had to bow down to him because he enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. The news of Tang Zheng's death also reached Yenqing University, but it did not spread. However, the university cancelled his student status. As for Fang Shishir and Yi Dingdang, it was as if they were struck by lightning. They were dumbfounded. Didn't he promise that he would come back safe and sound? Why did the bad news suddenly come? The few women in the villa, except for the Empyrean fairy, acted as if nothing had happened, and Nana did not know about it. Fang Shishir, Lu Qingmei and Princess An washed their faces with tears all day. If it were not for the Empyrean fairy stopping her, Fang Shishir would probably have gone to find Tang Zheng. If he was alive, she wanted to see him. If he was dead, she wanted to see his corpse. If she did not see Tang Zheng's corpse, no matter what the officials said, she would not believe it. The news of Tang Zheng's death spread in the upper-class circle of the capital. The reactions were different. Some people celebrated and drank for 3 days, such as the Song family, the Chu family, and the Ye family. There were also people who were grieving, such as Yi Tianlei and his wife. As for the Yin family, their reaction was the most peculiar. In the eyes of the outside world, they were calm as if they didn't know about Tang Zheng's death. Many people secretly curse it. In the past, the Yin family and Tang Zheng had a very good relationship, but they never thought that the Yin family would be so indifferent. They were too heartless. Was this really the true situation of the Yin family? Wrong. Although Yan Qingyi had gone to the northwestern desert to search for the Tree of Life, she had also heard of this bad news. She hurriedly reminded her family not to believe such baseless rumors. Tang Zheng was definitely not dead. He was the savior of the world. How could he die so easily? Therefore, the Yin family didn't believe the news from the beginning to the end. Of course, they wouldn't have any extreme reaction. They knew Tang Zheng's strength better than ordinary people, and knew how powerful he was. Therefore, at the critical moment, the Yin family chose to believe in Tang Zheng, and also believed in Yan Qingyi. The Song family celebrated as if it was the new year. They couldn't wait to hang up red lanterns and light firecrackers to celebrate. Ever since the death of Jian Shisan, the Song family had been like stray dogs, hiding everywhere and not daring to show themselves. They were deeply afraid that Tang Zheng would come knocking on their door for revenge. Now it seems that there is no need to hide anymore. With Tang Zheng dead, the Song family's danger alarm has been lifted. Immediately, the Song family contacted the Chu family and the Ye family, forming a huge new alliance. Song Yu was actually engaged to Yi Meiyu, using marriage as a method to consolidate the relationship between the two families. Song Yu did not form a good relationship with Yi Dingdang, and in the end, allowed Yi Meiyu to successfully replace him. Everyone was happy. Song Yu was well aware of Yi Meiyu's romantic reputation, but she could only grit her teeth and swallow it. This was the people of a large family. When necessary they had to compromise. Marriage was not a marriage of love, but an exchange of benefits. Yi Tianlei's family of 3 had already become independent from the Ye family, so they naturally wouldn't worry about these messy matters. However, their situation wasn't good either. After all, this was the capital, and if the 3 great families were to interfere, it would be extremely difficult for them to do anything. But this instead aroused Yi Tianlei's ambition. Since you guys are deliberately obstructing me, then I will do something and let you guys take a look. Coincidentally, Tang Zheng's company was lacking people, so Yi Tianlei resolutely joined Tang Zheng's business empire. In the eyes of many people, this was a crazy move, and it was extremely stupid. Because Tang Zheng was already dead, then wouldn't his business empire be scattered like monkeys when the wall falls? If he joined at this time, he would be courting death. However, Yi Tianlei turned a deaf ear to him because he had an idea. Since Tang Zheng had helped him so much, if he could support this last bit of his family business, then it would be the greatest gratitude to Tang Zheng. With the full support of Feng Xinyang and Yi Dingdang, Yi Tianlei gradually gained a foothold in the company. Mu Hongyan returned from Europe, and the news of Tang Zheng's death also spread to the royal families of Europe. The royal families who had originally made an alliance with Tang Zheng went back on their words and forgot their promises. The King of Sweden also wanted to go back on his words, but under the strong insistence of his daughter, and he didn't break the contract. For the time being, the group had only started business in Sweden, but it was difficult to move forward. In order to consolidate the hearts of the group, Mu Hongyan wiped away her tears and returned to the capital without stopping. With her and Yi Tianlei's swift and decisive means, the group temporarily stabilized. However, many people with discerning eyes understood that the 3 great families would definitely not let them go. The storm was coming. The Long family in Dianan even sent someone to extend an olive branch to Mu Hongyan, asking her to return to the Long family. However, she refused without hesitation, causing the Long family to return with hatred. In this precarious situation, the Yin family righteously made a move and announced to the outside world that they would increase the strength and depth of their cooperation with Tang Zheng's group. This was an all-round support which was like sending charcoal in snowy weather. Many of the rascals who were ready to make trouble gave up again. Only the Song, Chu and Yi families snorted and thought that this was the dying struggle of the Yin family, which was useless. The 2 sides competed with each other in the business world and began to compete with each other with wins and losses. Mu Hongyan's genius business mind played a role. She led the group to attack cities and seize territories in the business world, even more aggressive than before. Mu Hongyan was trying hard to hold on. Without Tang Zheng at the helm, if the group lost its aggressiveness, it would be like a sheep and anyone would want to take a bite. She knew this very well, so she changed her normal state. After the first few days of crying and heartbroken, although the villa was still gloomy, the women had gradually learned to be strong. They put away the sadness in their hearts and changed to their own ways to support the family. Fang Shishir insisted on studying every day, because this was both her wish and Tang Zheng's wish. She didn't want to let Tang Zheng down. Moreover, she always had an obsession in her heart. She believed that Tang Zheng would come back to find her. She and Tang Zheng went through thick and thin together. Even with his strength, she firmly believed that he must still be alive somewhere in the world, but she couldn't get in touch with him. Lu Qingmei resolutely quit her original job and chose to join Tang Zheng's group. Although her business ability couldn't be compared with Mu Hongyan's, she also wanted to do her part. Every day she worked in the company until late at night before going home. She even spent the night in the company because she felt that Tang Zheng was by her side when she was in the company. She needed this feeling too much. Fang Shishir was a very observant person. From Lu Qingmei's choice she could see some clues. She also guessed the relationship between Lu Qingmei and Tang Zheng, but she didn't say anything. Princess and was asked to go back to China, but she refused without any hesitation. She continued to study in Yenqing University. Empyrean Fairy was the calmest. Every day she would still guide Nana's cultivation. It was as if the news of Tang Zheng's death didn't affect her at all. In fact, it was not that she was cold-blooded. It was just that she knew the power of a Skywalker better than anyone else. If a Skywalker died so easily, then they wouldn't be called Skywalkers. Empyrean Fairy looked at the reactions of the women in the family with great interest. She couldn't help but sigh. They were all heroes among women, and they were not inferior to men at all. Tang Zheng was really lucky to have so many outstanding women as his companions. He didn't know how many men would be envious of him. In the boundless sea, Tang Zheng and his group landed on a remote cliff. They did not make a sound and no one discovered their whereabouts. It had been more than a month since the battle. This was something that Tang Zheng discovered later. He had been sleeping at the bottom of the sea for a very long time. It was much longer than he had thought. Originally he wanted to contact his family, but he was stopped by Suing Tian. Suing Tian was a cunning old man. He knew that if they went missing for more than a month, they would definitely be judged as dead. Then it would cause a chain reaction. When the airship exploded, the people from the dragon group had all escaped. This made Suing Tian furious. He had made up his mind to completely break off his relationship with Xing Feng. Suing Tian was very clear about Xing Feng's personality. This kind of person would definitely conceal the truth and exaggerate things to gain credit for himself. If he contacted the capital in time, Xing Feng would definitely not have the time to be arrogant and carry out his scheme. Suing Tian wanted to drag things out on purpose. He wanted Xing Feng to be arrogant and think that no one in the world could stop him from advancing. If God wants to destroy a man, he must first make him crazy. Then he would make mistakes. The higher he climbed, the harder he would fall when the truth was revealed. His true colors would be revealed, and no one would be able to protect him at that time. This time, Suing Tian wanted to hit Xing Feng's weak spot. He wanted to kill him with one move and make him unable to jump up in the future. Tang Zheng listened to Suing Tian's analysis and chose to agree. Xing Feng was like a fly that kept buzzing in his ear. He was so annoyed that he wanted to get rid of him long ago. Now that he had found an opportunity to do so, it was naturally better than killing him directly. That would only make people talk. The National Security Bureau has a secret base here. We can go there first and then secretly return to the capital. If we are exposed in advance, Xing Feng will have time to find a countermeasure. Then all our efforts will be for naught, Suing Tian said. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.